I made one choice that night, a choice that would cost me everything I'd built, or give me everything I'd been missing. Ryan Cole never imagined that offering his boss a ride home would ignite a scandal that threatened his career, his reputation, and the careful life he'd constructed for his daughter. One rainstorm, one act of kindness, one night that crossed no lines, but a workplace that wouldn't believe it. This is the story of a single father who learned that sometimes doing the right thing makes you the target, and that real love isn't found in passion, but in the courage to protect what matters most. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The rain arrived without warning. Ryan Cole had been staring at his monitor for the better part of 3 hours, his eyes burning from the blue light, his coffee long since gone cold. The office was nearly empty now, just the hum of the server room down the hall and the occasional creak of the building settling into the January cold. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of Cascade Tech Solutions, Portland's downtown core had transformed into a watercolor painting of brake lights and neon reflections, all of it blurred by sheets of rain that hammered against the glass like something desperate to get in. He should have left an hour ago. Emma would be waiting for him at his mother's place, probably already in her pajamas, clutching that worn stuffed rabbit she refused to sleep without. Friday nights were movie nights, their tradition sacred and unbreakable. But the code review had run long, and then there was the deployment issue, and before Ryan knew it, the clock had pushed past 7. Still here? Ryan's head snapped up. Laura Mitchell stood in the doorway of her office, one hand braced against the frame, her blazer draped over her arm. She looked tired, the kind of tired that settles into your bones after too many weeks of 12-hour days and impossible deadlines. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail that had started to come loose, and there were shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. "Just finishing up the Jenkins pipeline," Ryan said, gesturing vaguely at his screen. "Wanted to make sure it was stable before the weekend." Laura smiled, a small, genuine thing that rarely appeared during work hours. "You're too reliable, Cole. One of these days, you're going to have to learn to leave things undone," says the woman who's still in the office at 7 on a Friday. "Touché." She stepped into the bullpen, her heels clicking softly against the polished concrete floor. The open office layout had been some executive's idea fostering collaboration, but mostly it just meant everyone knew everyone else's business. Right now, though, the emptiness felt almost comfortable. "I was actually about to head out, storm's getting worse." As if to punctuate her point, thunder rolled across the city, deep enough that Ryan felt it in his chest. The lights flickered once, twice, then held. "Yeah, I should get going too." Ryan saved his work, closed his laptop with perhaps more force than necessary. He was already calculating the drive time, factoring in the weather. If he left now, he could be at his mom's by 7:30, home with Emma by 8. Still time for a movie. Still time to be the father he'd promised himself he'd be. He was pulling on his jacket when he heard it, a sound of frustration somewhere between a groan and a laugh. Laura stood by the elevator bank, her phone pressed to her ear, her free hand pinching the bridge of her nose. "No, I understand. Monday's fine. Yes, thank you." She lowered the phone and Ryan could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her jaw was set. "My car won't start. AAA can't get to me until tomorrow afternoon at the earliest. Apparently half of Portland decided to have car trouble tonight." Ryan hesitated. The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to offer sympathy, maybe help her call a rideshare, then head out. Laura Mitchell was his team lead, his boss in everything but the official org chart. They had a professional relationship, cordial, respectful, bounded by the careful lines that workplace hierarchies demanded. But the rain was coming down like the world was ending, and the thought of anyone, even his boss, standing out in this weather, waiting for a car that might never come, made something in his chest tighten. "I can give you a ride." The words were out before he'd fully thought them through. Laura's head turned, surprise flickering across her features. "Ryan, you don't have to." "It's fine. I'm headed home anyway." "Where do you live?" "Northwest, not far from Wallace Park." Ryan did the mental math. It wasn't exactly on his way, but it wasn't a detour that would wreck his evening either. 10, maybe 15 minutes out of his route. "That's not bad. Come on, before the parking garage floods." Laura studied him for a moment, and Ryan could see the calculation happening behind her eyes, the weighing of propriety against practicality, of inconvenience against pride. Finally, she nodded. Okay, thank you. I really appreciate this. They rode the elevator down in silence, the kind of quiet that sits between people who know each other professionally, but not personally. The parking garage was a concrete tomb, dim and echoing, smelling of oil and rain that had blown in through the open levels. Ryan's car sat in his usual spot, a silver Honda Civic that had seen better years. The paint was faded. There was a dent in the rear bumper from where someone had backed into him at a grocery store 2 years ago, and the check engine light had been on for so long he'd stopped noticing it. Sorry about the mess, he said as he unlocked the doors. The back seat was scattered with evidence of single fatherhood. A booster seat, a random sneaker, a handful of granola bar wrappers, a coloring book with half the pages torn out. Please, you should see my place. Laura slid into the passenger seat, pulling the door closed against the rain that was already soaking through Ryan's jacket. I've got dishes in the sink from Tuesday. Ryan started the engine. It caught on the second try, thank God, and pulled out of the garage into the downpour. The windshield wipers were immediately overwhelmed, slapping back and forth in a rhythm that couldn't keep pace with the deluge. Visibility dropped to maybe 20 feet. The streets were already flooding, water pooling at the intersections and streaming along the gutters. Jesus, Laura breathed, leaning forward to peer through the windshield. When did this turn into a monsoon? About 20 minutes ago, according to my weather app. Flash flood warning until midnight. Ryan eased the car forward, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. We might want to take Burnside. The low roads are probably underwater by now. They drove in silence for a while, the rain creating a cocoon of white noise around them. The usual Friday night traffic had thinned to almost nothing. Only the desperate or the stupid were out in this weather. Ryan kept the car at a crawl, his eyes straining to see past the sheets of water cascading down the windshield. You have a daughter, right? Laura's voice cut through the sound of the rain, soft but clear. Ryan glanced at her, surprised. Yeah, Emma. She's 6. That's a good age. It's a loud age, Ryan said, and was rewarded with a laugh. But yeah, it's good. She's good. Best thing that ever happened to me. Is she with her mom tonight? The question hung in the air for a moment, delicate and dangerous. Ryan kept his eyes on the road. No, her mom's not in the picture. Hasn't been since Emma was 18 months old. He could feel Laura's gaze on him, but she didn't press. He appreciated that. Most people, when they learned he was a single father, either got uncomfortable or asked too many questions. Laura just nodded, like she understood that some stories didn't need to be told all at once. My mom watches her on late work nights, Ryan continued, easing the car through an intersection where water was creeping up over the curbs. Emma's probably already negotiated 2 extra stories and a later bedtime. My mom's a total pushover. Sounds like Emma knows how to work the system. She's a Cole. We're good at finding loopholes. They were crossing the Burnside Bridge now, the Willamette River churning dark and angry beneath them. The rain was coming down so hard that the city lights had turned into nothing more than smears of color. Ryan's phone buzzed in his cup holder, probably his mom wondering where he was. He'd text her when they stopped. Can I ask you something? Laura's voice was quiet, almost hesitant. Sure. Do you ever feel like you're drowning, like you're doing everything right, checking all the boxes, hitting all the deadlines, but somehow you're still just barely keeping your head above water? Ryan was quiet for a moment, measuring his response. They'd never had a conversation like this before. Personal, unguarded, stripped of the careful professionalism that governed their interactions. But there was something about the storm, about the isolation of the car with the rain hammering down around them, that made honesty feel like the only option. Every single day, he said finally. I wake up, I get Emma ready for school, I go to work, I write code, I go to meetings, I pick Emma up, we have dinner, I help with homework, we read stories, she goes to bed, I clean up, I prep for the next day, and then I do it all over again. And I'm grateful, I really am. I love my daughter more than anything in the world. But sometimes, he trailed off, searching for the words. Sometimes I feel like I'm running so fast just to stay in place that I've forgotten what it feels like to actually move forward. Laura was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was raw. I haven't had a real conversation with another adult outside of work in 3 months. I can't remember the last time I went on a date. Hell, I can't remember the last time I wanted to go on a date. I go home, I eat something microwaved, I answer emails until I fall asleep on my couch, and then I wake up and do it again. And I know I'm supposed to be grateful because I have a good job and a nice apartment and I'm successful, but Christ, Ryan, is this really it? Is this really what we worked so hard for? The vulnerability in her voice caught Ryan off guard. This wasn't team lead Laura, the woman who ran stand-ups with military precision and could debug a memory leak faster than anyone he'd ever worked with. This was just Laura, tired and lonely and honest in a way that made Ryan's chest ache. I don't know, he said quietly. I used to think I had it figured out. Back when Emma's mom was still around, I had this whole plan. Career trajectory, savings goals, 5-year plans. Then she left, and suddenly I was a single dad trying to keep a 1-year-old alive while learning to function on 4 hours of sleep a night. All those plans just evaporated. Now I just try to make it through each day without totally screwing up my kid. I bet you're doing better than you think. Maybe. Or maybe I'm doing worse and I'm just too tired to notice. Laura laughed, but it was a bitter sound. God, we're a pair, aren't we? Mid-30s and already burned out. Speak for yourself. I'm only 32. Oh, excuse me, you're practically a baby. They were in northwest Portland now, the streets narrower and tree-lined, the houses growing larger and more expensive with each block. The rain hadn't let up at all. If anything, it had intensified. Water was running down the hills and rivers, overwhelming the storm drains. Ryan had to slow to a crawl as he navigated around a fallen branch blocking half the street. It's just up here, Laura said, pointing through the downpour. The gray house with the blue door. Ryan pulled up to the curb, put the car in park, and immediately realized he had a problem. The street was flooding, water pooling along the gutter and creeping up toward Laura's front walk. There was no way she was getting from the car to her door without wading through ankle-deep water in what looked like very expensive heels. Well, Laura said, staring out at the deluge, this is going to be fun. Wait here. Ryan killed the engine, zipped his jacket up as far as it would go, and pushed open the door. The rain hit him like a physical force, cold and hard enough to sting. He was soaked through in seconds. He circled around to Laura's side, yanked open her door, and before she could protest, he'd pulled off his jacket and held it over her head like the world's most pathetic umbrella. Ryan, you don't have to. Just go. I'm already soaked anyway. They made the dash to her front door together, Ryan holding his jacket over her while the rain pounded down on his head and shoulders. By the time they reached the covered porch, he was completely drenched, water dripping from his hair and running down the back of his neck. Laura fumbled with her keys, her hands shaking. From cold or adrenaline, Ryan couldn't tell. The door swung open, and warm air rushed out to meet them. Laura stepped inside, then turned back to Ryan, who was still standing on the porch, water pooling at his feet. Come inside, she said. I should get going. Emma's waiting. Ryan? Laura's voice was firm. Look at the street. He turned. In the few minutes they'd been standing there, the water level had risen visibly. What had been ankle deep was now pushing toward mid-calf. The rain showed no signs of stopping, and the wind had picked up, bending the trees and sending debris skittering across the flooded pavement. You are not driving in this, Laura said. It's not safe. Come inside, dry off, and we'll check the weather. If it clears up in the next hour, you can head home. If it doesn't, she shrugged. Then we'll figure it out. Every instinct Ryan had was screaming at him to leave. This was his boss. This was already blurring lines that should stay sharp and clear. But even as he thought it, a gust of wind drove rain horizontally across the porch, and he could hear the distant wail of a siren, probably another accident caused by the weather. He thought of Emma, safe and dry at his mother's house. He thought of the drive back across town in conditions that were only getting worse. He thought about the fact that Laura was right. Driving in this was stupid, possibly dangerous. Okay, he said finally, just until the worst of it passes. Laura stepped back, holding the door wide. Ryan crossed the threshold into her home, and the door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded, in the quiet of the warm house, like something final. Bet. Laura's house was nothing like Ryan expected. Not that he'd spent much time imagining what his team lead's home might look like, but if he had, he would have guessed something modern and minimal, the kind of place featured in design magazines, all clean lines and carefully curated. Instead, Laura's house was warm and lived in, with worn hardwood floors, built-in bookshelves crammed with paperbacks and framed photos, and furniture that looked comfortable rather than stylish. Sorry about the mess, Laura said, toeing off her heels and heading toward what Ryan assumed was the kitchen. I wasn't exactly expecting company. Ryan stood awkwardly in the entryway, dripping onto a welcome mat that read, "Wipe your paws." He could hear Laura moving around in the other room, the sound of drawers opening and closing. A moment later, she returned with a towel and a folded set of clothes. "My brother left these last time he visited," she said, handing them to Ryan. "He's about your size and..." "Bathroom's down the hall, first door on the right. Get out of those wet things before you catch pneumonia." Ryan accepted the clothes gratefully and retreated to the bathroom. It was small but tidy, with subway tiles and a clawfoot tub. He caught sight of himself in the mirror and winced. He looked like he'd gone swimming fully clothed. His hair was plastered to his forehead, his shirt clinging to his chest, water still dripping from his sleeves. He peeled off his wet clothes, dried off with the towel Laura had given him, and pulled on the borrowed clothes, gray sweatpants and a worn college hoodie that smelled like laundry detergent, and something else, something clean and unfamiliar. When he emerged, Laura had changed too, trading her work clothes for leggings and an oversized sweater. She looked younger somehow, softer without the armor of professional attire. "Better?" she asked. "Much. Thank you. Coffee? Or something stronger? I have wine, whiskey, probably some beer somewhere in the back of the fridge." "Coffee's good." Laura moved into the kitchen and Ryan followed, drawn by the warm light and the smell of something baking that lingered in the air. The kitchen was the heart of the house, spacious and well-used, with copper pots hanging from a rack above the island, a well-worn cutting board on the counter, and a collection of cookbooks stacked haphazardly on a shelf. "I was going to make dinner when I got home," Laura said, filling a kettle and setting it on the stove. "Nothing fancy, just pasta. You're welcome to join me if you want. It's the least I can do after you played personal umbrella service." Ryan glanced at the clock on the wall. 7:45. He pulled out his phone, sent a quick text to his mom. "Stuck in the weather, staying put until it's safe to drive. Kiss Emma for me. Tell her I'll make it up to her tomorrow." His mom's response came almost immediately. "Stay safe. Emma's fine. We're watching Moana again. Take your time." He looked up to find Laura watching him, a question in her eyes. "Emma's okay," he said. "I told my mom I'd be late." "You sure? I don't want to keep you from your daughter." "She's safe. That's what matters. And honestly," he gestured toward the window, where the rain was still coming down in sheets, "I'd be an idiot to drive in this right now." Laura smiled, and something in Ryan's chest loosened. "Then sit. Keep me company while I cook." So he did. He sat at the kitchen island while Laura moved around the kitchen with easy confidence, filling a pot with water, pulling out ingredients, chopping vegetables with quick practice strokes. It was strangely intimate watching her cook. Not romantic, not quite, but comfortable in a way that felt unexpected. "How long have you lived here?" Ryan asked, accepting the mug of coffee Laura slid across the counter to him. 4 years. Bought it right after I got the promotion to team lead. It was a fixer-upper, and I had all these grand plans to renovate, but..." She gestured vaguely around the kitchen, which was clearly original to the house, charming but dated, with old appliances and slightly warped cabinets. "Turns out I don't have a lot of free time for home improvement." "It's nice," Ryan said, and meant it. "It feels like a home." "Yeah?" Laura glanced around as if seeing the space through fresh eyes. "Most days it just feels like the place where I sleep between shifts at the office." The water began to boil. Laura added pasta, stirred it absently, then turned to lean against the counter, her own mug cradled in her hands. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Is this going to be a habit? You asking if you can ask me things?" She smiled. "Maybe. Fair warning, I might get personal. After the car confession session, I think we're past the point of professional boundaries." "Fair enough." Laura took a sip of her coffee, seemed to gather herself. "Why do you do it? The single dad thing, the full-time job, all of it. You could have taken a less demanding position, could have dialed back your hours, but you work harder than almost anyone on the team. Ryan was quiet for a moment, watching the rain bead and run down the window above the sink. Because I don't get to fail, he said finally. Emma's mom left because she couldn't handle it. Couldn't handle being a parent, couldn't handle the responsibility, couldn't handle how hard it all was. And I get it, you know? Being a parent is terrifying. You're responsible for this tiny human who depends on you for everything, and one wrong move could mess them up forever. But she left, and I stayed. So I don't get to complain about how hard it is. I don't get to half-ass it. I have to be enough parent, enough provider, enough stability for both of us. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. Maybe, but what's the alternative? Emma deserves a parent who's all in. She deserves someone who shows up, so I show up. Laura was quiet, her eyes shining with something Ryan couldn't quite name. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. Even on the hard days, especially on the hard days, she's the reason I keep going. The kitchen timer dinged. Laura turned to drain the pasta, and Ryan took the opportunity to pull out his phone, check the weather app. The radar was a mess of red and purple. The storm system stalled right over Portland. Flash flood warnings, high wind advisories, estimated clearance time. Not until well past midnight. How's it looking? Laura asked, not turning from the stove. Not great. Storm's not supposed to clear until after midnight. Laura was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Then you're staying. I'm not letting you drive in that. Laura. Ryan. She turned to face him, her expression serious. I'm serious. It's dangerous. The roads are flooding. You could get stuck, or worse. Stay. We'll eat, we'll wait out the storm, and when it's safe, you can go home to your daughter. Part of Ryan wanted to protest, to insist he could handle the drive, that he'd navigated worse weather. But the truth was, Laura was right. The storm was bad and getting worse, and the idea of leaving this warm kitchen to fight through flooded streets held no appeal. Okay, he said, I'll stay, but I'll sleep on the couch. I don't want to put you out. Laura's lips twitched. Deal. Now come help me with this sauce before I burn it. They worked side by side, Laura directing while Ryan chopped garlic and grated cheese. The kitchen filled with the smell of butter and herbs, garlic and tomatoes, and beneath it all the constant percussion of rain against glass. They talked while they cooked, about work at first, safe topics like the upcoming product launch and the ongoing battle with technical debt. But gradually, the conversation drifted elsewhere. Laura talked about growing up in Seattle, about her family, about the brother whose clothes Ryan was wearing and who worked as a marine biologist in San Diego. She talked about college, about her first job out of school, about the long climb up the corporate ladder that had left her successful but exhausted. Ryan talked about Emma's obsession with dinosaurs, about the time she convinced him to read her the entire encyclopedia entry for Parasaurolophus at bedtime, about how she still slept with a nightlight shaped like a triceratops. He talked about his mother, who'd basically become Emma's second parent, about how he didn't know what he would have done without her support those first brutal years. They didn't talk about Emma's mother. They didn't talk about Laura's lack of a relationship. Some subjects stayed carefully untouched, marked as territory too personal for this strange night. When the pasta was ready, they ate at Laura's small dining table, the overhead light warm and golden, the storm still raging outside. The food was simple but good, and Ryan couldn't remember the last time he'd had a meal that didn't involve chicken nuggets or mac and cheese from a box. This is really good, he said, twirling another forkful of pasta. Don't sound so surprised. I do know how to cook. I'm not surprised, just I don't get a lot of adult meals that aren't takeout or frozen dinners. Single dad life? Single dad life, Ryan confirmed. Emma's a good eater, but her palate tops out at pizza and spaghetti with butter. Anything more complicated than that? And I'm eating alone while she has Cheerios for dinner. Laura laughed. At least she eats. My nephew went through a phase where he'd only eat white food. My sister-in-law almost lost her mind. They traded stories about children neither of them had. Laura's nieces and nephews, Emma's adventures in kindergarten. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and the occasional comfortable silence. Outside, the storm continued its assault on the city, But inside Laura's warm dining room, the world felt small and safe. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Laura started a fire in the fireplace. Gas, not wood, but it crackled convincingly enough, and they settled on opposite ends of the couch with fresh mugs of coffee. The rain drummed against the windows, and somewhere in the distance, thunder growled like something angry. "I should probably try to get some work done," Laura said, but made no move to get up. "I've got 3 email threads I need to respond to, and that architecture review document won't write itself." "It's Friday night," Ryan pointed out. "The email can wait until Monday." Says the man who was still in the office at 7 on a Friday. Touché. Again. Laura smiled into her coffee. "We're terrible at this, aren't we? Work-life balance. The worst." "When was the last time you took a vacation?" Ryan had to think about it. "Emma and I did a long weekend at the coast last summer. We stayed in this dumpy motel that she thought was a palace because it had a pool. She found a dead crab on the beach and insisted we give it a funeral. We built a little grave out of rocks, and she sang "My Heart Will Go On" because she'd just discovered Titanic. That's actually adorable. It was. Until she asked if the crab was in heaven with her mom. The words hung in the air between them, heavier than Ryan had intended. Laura's expression shifted, something like understanding crossing her features. "Emma's mom passed away?" she asked gently. No, she's alive, somewhere. We just haven't heard from her in almost 5 years." Ryan set his mug down, rubbed his hands over his face. "She left when Emma was 18 months old. One day she was there, the next day she was gone. She packed a bag, wrote a note saying she couldn't do it anymore, and just disappeared. I tried to find her at first, but she didn't want to be found. Eventually I stopped trying. I'm so sorry." "Don't be. We're better off without her. If someone doesn't want to be a parent, they shouldn't be forced to stick around. But it's hard, you know. Emma asks about her sometimes. And I never know what to say. How do you tell a 6-year-old that her mother chose to leave and never come back?" Laura was quiet for a long moment. "You tell her the truth. Age appropriate, but the truth. That sometimes people make choices we don't understand, that it's not her fault. That she's loved fiercely by the people who stayed. You sound like my therapist. You have a therapist?" "For about 6 months after Emma's mom left. Grief counseling, basically, though I'm not sure you can grieve someone who's still alive, but it helped. Gave me tools to cope, to be a better parent, to not pass all my damage onto my kid." He paused, picked up his coffee again. "You ever do therapy?" 3 years, on and off. Mostly work stress, some family stuff. My therapist keeps telling me I need better boundaries, that I should learn to say no, that I'm going to burn out if I keep operating at this pace. I keep meaning to listen to her. But there's always one more deadline, one more crisis, one more thing that needs my attention. And if I don't handle it, who will? "Someone else," Ryan said quietly. "There's always someone else." "Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, you're pulling the same hours I am, working just as hard, sacrificing just as much. You could delegate more. You could do the bare minimum and coast on your reputation, but you don't. Because I can't afford to. Single parent, remember? I need this job. I need the health insurance, the stability, the paycheck. I can't risk being seen as anything less than indispensable." "So we're both trapped," Laura said. It wasn't a question. Maybe. Or maybe we're both just scared of what happens if we slow down long enough to ask ourselves if this is really what we want. The fire crackled. The rain pounded. Laura pulled her legs up under her, wrapping her arms around her knees in a gesture that made her look younger, more vulnerable. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Something I've never said out loud? After everything I just told you, I think we're past the point of secrets." Laura took a breath, let it out slowly. "I'm lonely. Desperately, crushingly lonely. I go to work and I'm team lead Laura, competent and confident and in control. I come home and I'm just alone. And I know I could change that. I could join a gym, take a class, download a dating app. But the truth is, I don't even know what I'm lonely for anymore. Connection? Intimacy? Just someone to talk to who isn't asking me to review their code or approve their PTO request?" Her voice cracked on the last word, and Ryan felt something in his chest constrict. He understood that loneliness, the kind that settles into your bones and becomes so familiar you almost forget it's there. I get it, he said quietly. After Emma's mom left, I was so focused on just surviving that I didn't even realize how isolated I'd become. All my friends were single, going out, living their lives, and I was home by 7 every night, doing bath time and bedtime stories. Eventually, they stopped calling. Not because they didn't care, but because we just existed in different worlds. And now? Now my social circle consists of other parents at Emma's school, my mom, and the barista at the coffee shop who knows my order by heart. That's depressing. That's life with a kid. You trade late-night adventures for early morning soccer practice. You give up spontaneity for routine, and most days I'm okay with that trade, but sometimes... He trailed off, searching for the words. Sometimes I miss being a person instead of just a parent. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of their shared confession settling around them like a blanket. Outside, the storm showed no signs of abating. Ryan checked his phone, 9:47 p.m. Emma would be asleep by now, curled up in his mother's guest room with her rabbit and her nightlight, dreaming whatever 6-year-olds dream about. I should make up the couch, Laura said eventually, but she didn't move. Laura. Ryan turned to face her fully. Thank you for this, for the ride home that became dinner, for listening, for... He gestured vaguely, encompassing the warm room, the conversation, the strange intimacy of the evening, all of it. I didn't realize how much I needed this until right now. Laura's eyes were bright in the firelight. Me too. The moment stretched between them, delicate and dangerous. Ryan was acutely aware of how close they were sitting, of the soft light in the warm room, and the fact that they were alone together in a way they'd never been before. It would be easy, so easy, to lean in, to close the distance, to take comfort in the physical closeness they'd both been starved of. But Ryan thought of Emma, asleep, and trusting that her father was making good decisions. He thought of Monday morning, walking into the office and facing the team. He thought of everything he stood to lose if he made the wrong choice in this moment. So instead of moving closer, he stood up. I should let you get some sleep, he said. It's late, and I'm sure you're exhausted. If Laura was disappointed, she didn't show it. She just nodded, unfolding herself from the couch with a grace that spoke of practiced control. Let me get you some blankets, she said. She disappeared down the hall and returned a moment later with an armload of bedding, sheets, a pillow, a thick down comforter that looked like it cost more than Ryan's entire bedroom set. Together they made up the couch, working in comfortable silence. Bathroom's down the hall if you need it, Laura said when they were done. Kitchen's obviously there if you get hungry. Help yourself to anything. I'll be fine. Thank you. They stood there for a moment, neither quite sure how to end the evening. Finally, Laura stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Ryan in a brief, tight hug. She smelled like coffee and something floral, and Ryan had to fight the urge to pull her closer. Thank you for the ride, she said, stepping back. And for staying. I didn't realize how nice it would be to just talk to someone. Any time, Ryan said, and meant it. Laura headed toward the hallway, then paused at the entrance to look back. Ryan, when you said you'd sleep on the couch, you meant that, right? You're not going to try to sleep on the floor or in your car or something equally stupid. I meant the couch, he assured her. Scout's honor. Were you a scout? No, but Emma made me promise to always tell the truth, so I'm holding myself to a higher standard. Laura smiled, soft and genuine and maybe a little sad. Good night, Ryan. Good night, Laura. She disappeared down the hallway, and a moment later Ryan heard a door close. He stood in the living room for a long moment, looking around at Laura's home, the bookshelves crammed with well-read paperbacks, the photos on the mantel of people who were clearly family, the Afghan thrown over the back of the armchair that looked hand-knitted. This was a life, a full, complete life that Laura had built for herself, and he was standing in the middle of it, in borrowed clothes, after an evening that had felt more intimate than anything he'd experienced in years. Ryan pulled out his phone, checked the weather one more time. Still bad, still dangerous. He texted his mom a good night, then opened his photo album and looked at the most recent picture of Emma, gap-toothed and grinning, holding up a painting she'd done at school that was supposed to be their house, but looked more like an abstract explosion of color. "I'm making good choices," he whispered to the picture, like Emma could somehow hear him through the phone. "I promise." Then he turned off the lights, banked the fire, and settled onto Laura's couch. The blankets were soft. The pillow smelled like lavender, and the rain continued its relentless assault on the house. Ryan closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but his mind kept replaying the evening, Laura's honesty, her vulnerability, the way she'd looked in the firelight when she'd admitted how lonely she was. He'd made the right choice by staying on the couch. He knew that. Knew it with every rational part of his brain. But that didn't stop some small buried part of him from wondering what might have happened if he'd made a different choice. If he'd leaned in instead of standing up. If he'd stayed in that moment instead of running from it. But he hadn't. Because he was Ryan Cole, single father, responsible adult, man who made good decisions even when they were hard. Even when every instinct he had was screaming at him to reach for something that felt, for the first time in years, like it might fill the empty spaces. The storm raged on. Ryan pulled the blanket up to his chin and stared at the ceiling, listening to the rain and the thunder and the quiet sounds of Laura moving around in her bedroom down the hall. Tomorrow he would go home. Tomorrow he would pick up Emma and take her to the park like he'd promised. Tomorrow this would all become just a strange story about a night stuck in a storm, an anecdote to tell if it ever came up in conversation. But tonight he was here, in Laura Mitchell's living room, close enough to the life he'd glimpsed over dinner to feel its warmth, but far enough away to remember all the reasons he couldn't reach for it. He fell asleep sometime after midnight, the rain still falling, the wind still howling, and his last thought before sleep claimed him was of Laura's voice in the car, raw and honest. "Do you ever feel like you're drowning?" Yes, Ryan thought, every single day. But tonight, for a few hours at least, he'd remembered what it felt like to breathe. Ryan woke to silence. For a disorienting moment, he didn't know where he was. The ceiling was wrong, the light filtering through unfamiliar curtains was wrong, and the smell, clean linen and something faintly floral, was definitely wrong. Then memory rushed back. The storm, the drive, Laura's kitchen, and the conversation that had peeled back layers he usually kept carefully wrapped. He sat up slowly, his neck stiff from the couch, and checked his phone. 6:47 a.m. The screen showed a series of texts from his mother, the most recent from 20 minutes ago. "Emma's up. Making pancakes. Take your time." Outside, the world was perfectly still. The storm had passed, leaving behind a sky scrubbed clean and pale with early morning light. Through Laura's living room window, Ryan could see puddles reflecting the sky, branches scattered across lawns, but no rain, no wind, just the quiet aftermath. He folded the blankets carefully, stacked them on the arm of the couch, and padded toward the bathroom in his borrowed clothes. The house was silent. Laura must still be asleep. Good. It would be easier to slip out quietly, leave a thank you note, and pretend last night had been nothing more than two coworkers waiting out bad weather. Except it hadn't been just that. And they both knew it. Ryan splashed water on his face, ran his fingers through his hair in a futile attempt to tame it, and emerged to find Laura in the kitchen. She was wearing different clothes than last night, jeans and a soft gray sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back. She looked up when he entered, and something flickered across her face. Relief, maybe. Or regret. "You're up," she said, her voice still rough with sleep. "I was trying to be quiet, didn't want to wake you. My body clock doesn't really do sleeping in anymore. 6-year-olds are merciless alarm clocks." Ryan gestured toward the window. "Storm cleared. Yeah, around 4, I think. I heard it stop." She held up a coffee pot. "Want some? I just made it." "I should probably get going. My mom's got Emma, but I don't want to abuse her babysitting generosity more than I already have." "Right, of course." Laura set the pot down, wrapped her arms around herself. The easy comfort of last night had evaporated, replaced by something awkward and uncertain. "Your clothes are in the dryer. I threw them in last night after you fell asleep. Should be dry by now." "You didn't have to do that." "It was no trouble." They stood in the kitchen, the morning light making everything feel too bright, too exposed. Last night's intimacy had been possible in the darkness, in the cocoon of the storm. But morning had rules. Morning meant going back to their real lives, their real roles. Ryan changed back into his own clothes, stiff and warm from the dryer, and found Laura waiting by the front door when he emerged. She'd folded her brother's clothes and tucked them under her arm. "Thank you," Ryan said, "for everything. The ride would have been enough, but dinner and a place to stay? I really appreciate it." "It was nice," Laura said quickly. "Having company, the conversation. It's been a while since I've talked to someone like that." "Yeah, same." They looked at each other, and Ryan could see her struggling with the same thing he was: how to acknowledge what had passed between them without making it more than it was, how to maintain the professional boundary that Monday morning would require. "So," Laura said finally, "I'll see you at work?" "Monday. Yeah." Ryan opened the door, then paused. "Laura? Last night was just two people stuck in a storm," she finished gently. "Nothing more. We're good, Ryan. I promise." He wanted to argue, wanted to say that it had been more than that the conversation they'd had mattered, that the vulnerability they'd shared meant something. But what good would it do? They worked together. She was his team lead. He was a single father who couldn't afford complications. So instead, he just nodded. "See you Monday." He walked to his car through the quiet morning streets, the air clean and cold, puddles soaking through his shoes. His car started on the first try, small mercies, and he drove across town to his mother's house, his mind replaying the evening in fragments. Laura's laugh, the way she'd looked in the firelight, the honesty in her voice when she'd admitted how lonely she was. Emma launched herself at him the moment he walked through his mother's door, all 60 pounds of enthusiastic 6-year-old nearly knocking him over. "Daddy, you're back! Grandma said you were stuck in the storm like a superhero fighting bad guys. But the bad guys were rain, and you had to stay in a fortress until it was safe." Ryan shot his mother a look over Emma's head. She shrugged, unrepentant. "Something like that, sweetheart." He kissed the top of Emma's head, breathed in the familiar smell of her strawberry shampoo. "I'm sorry I missed movie night." "It's okay. Grandma let me stay up late and we watched Moana and Encanto and I had ice cream for dessert." "Did you now?" Ryan looked at his mother again. She was grinning. "Special circumstances," his mother said. "Storm night rules." Emma chattered the entire drive home about her evening, every detail of both movies, what she'd had for dinner, the game she'd played with Grandma, her opinions on whether Bruno was misunderstood or actually a villain. Ryan let her talk, grateful for the distraction, for the normalcy of his daughter's enthusiastic narrative. At home, Emma wanted to play in the puddles left by the storm. Ryan let her, standing on the porch while she splashed and shrieked with delight, and tried not to think about Laura alone in her too-big house with her perfect kitchen and her carefully maintained distance from the world. The weekend passed in the usual rhythm of single parenthood. Saturday morning was soccer practice. Emma's team lost spectacularly, but she scored a goal and that was all that mattered. Afternoon was grocery shopping, Emma riding in the cart and sneaking snacks into their basket when she thought Ryan wasn't looking. Sunday was laundry and meal prep and a trip to the park where Emma befriended a dog 3 times her size and had to be convinced that no, they could not take it home. Ryan didn't think about Friday night. Or he tried not to, but it crept in around the edges. When he was cooking dinner and remembered Laura's easy competence in her kitchen, when he was reading Emma bedtime stories and thought about Laura's confession of loneliness, when he lay in bed staring at the ceiling and replayed the moment he'd chosen to stand up instead of stay seated, to maintain distance instead of closing it. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Ryan dropped Emma at school, endured her protests about why she couldn't have Pop-Tarts for breakfast every day, and drove to the office with a knot of anxiety in his stomach he couldn't quite name. The office was its usual Monday chaos, people shuffling in with coffee, complaining about weekend chores, diving into email backlogs. Ryan settled at his desk, opened his laptop, and tried to focus on code that needed reviewing. He lasted maybe 20 minutes before his concentration fractured. Laura arrived at 9, her usual time. She walked through the bullpen with her professional armor firmly in place. Blazer, heels, hair pulled back, expression neutral. She caught Ryan's eye for just a moment, gave him a small nod, and disappeared into her office. Normal. Everything was normal. Except it wasn't, because something had shifted, and Ryan could feel it in the space between them, even across the open office floor. The morning passed without incident. Ryan attended stand-up, gave his updates, listened to other people's blockers and concerns. Laura ran the meeting with her usual efficiency, and if her gaze lingered on Ryan a fraction longer than necessary, no one else seemed to notice. It was after lunch when things started to unravel. Ryan was in the break room refilling his coffee when he heard voices. Low, conspiratorial, the kind of tone that meant gossip. He should have walked away, should have grabbed his coffee and left before whoever was talking realized he was there. But then he heard his name, and his feet wouldn't move. I'm just saying, it's weird. The voice belonged to Josh from QA. Ryan leaving with Laura on Friday night, and neither of them here over the weekend? They probably just shared a ride. That was Melissa from design, though she sounded uncertain. Right. A ride. Is that what we're calling it? Josh laughed, low and ugly. Come on. Cole's been here 3 years and I've never seen him interact with Laura outside of work. Then suddenly he's giving her rides home? Maybe her car broke down, Melissa said. Or maybe there's something going on. Mitchell's single, Cole's single. Wouldn't be the first time a team lead hooked up with someone on their team. Ryan's hand tightened around his coffee mug. He should say something, should walk in there and shut down the speculation, but his voice had frozen in his throat. That's a pretty serious accusation, Melissa said quietly. Laura's professional. She wouldn't she? I've seen the way she looks at him in meetings, and Cole's not exactly hard to look at. Single dad, good guy, probably grateful for the attention. You're out of line, Josh. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Ryan finally found his voice. He stepped into the break room doorway, and both Josh and Melissa jumped. Josh had the decency to look embarrassed. You want to say that to my face? Ryan's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Since you seem so interested in my personal life? Josh recovered quickly, shrugged. Just making conversation, man. No offense. Right. Here's some conversation for you. Laura's car broke down Friday night. The storm was dangerous. I gave my team lead a ride home because it was the decent thing to do. That's it. That's the whole story. You want to make it into something else? That's your problem. But keep my name out of your mouth. He turned and walked out before Josh could respond, his heart hammering against his ribs. The coffee sat forgotten on the break room counter. Back at his desk, Ryan tried to focus on his code, but the words on his screen might as well have been written in ancient Greek. Anger burned hot in his chest, not just at Josh, but at the situation, at the unfairness of it all. He'd done the right thing, helped someone who needed help, and now it was being twisted into something ugly. An hour later, Laura appeared at his desk. Her expression was carefully neutral, but Ryan could see tension in the set of her shoulders. Cole, my office, now. The bullpen went quiet. Ryan could feel eyes on him as he stood, followed Laura across the floor to her office. She closed the door behind them, pulled the blinds. When she turned to face him, her professional mask had slipped just enough for him to see the worry underneath. HR called me 20 minutes ago, she said without preamble. Someone filed a complaint, anonymous, alleging inappropriate conduct between us. Ryan felt the floor drop out from under him. What? They're opening an inquiry. Nothing formal yet, but they're going to want to talk to both of us. Ask questions about Friday night. Laura's hands were shaking slightly. She clasped them together to still them. I told them the truth, that your car broke down, that the storm was dangerous, that you gave me a ride home and stayed until it was safe to drive. That's it. That is it, Ryan said. Laura, nothing happened. I know that. You know that. But HR has to investigate anyway because someone decided to make it their business. She turned away, pressed her palms flat against her desk. This is exactly what I was afraid of. This is why I don't... She stopped herself, took a breath. This is why boundaries matter. We didn't cross any boundaries. Didn't we? Laura turned back to face him. Ryan, we had dinner. We talked about personal things. We spent the night under the same roof. In this building, in this culture, that's enough. It doesn't matter that nothing happened. It matters what people think happened. Ryan wanted to argue, but he couldn't, because she was right. In the corporate world, perception was reality. And right now, the perception was that something inappropriate had occurred between a team lead and her subordinate. "What do we do?" he asked. "We tell the truth. We cooperate with HR. We keep our heads down and hope this blows over quickly." Laura's voice was steady, but Ryan could hear the fear underneath. "And we make sure it doesn't happen again. No more rides. No more personal conversations. We keep everything strictly professional from here on out." The words hit Ryan harder than they should have. "Right. Professional. I'm serious, Ryan. My career's on the line here. Your job is on the line. We can't afford to give anyone more ammunition." "I understand." "Do you? Because this isn't just about us. If this investigation goes badly, it affects the whole team. It undermines my authority. It makes you look like you're getting preferential treatment. It turns a simple act of kindness into a scandal that could derail both our careers." Ryan felt anger flare again, not at Laura, but at the situation, at the people who'd taken something innocent and made it dirty. "This is bullshit. We didn't do anything wrong." "It doesn't matter. In the court of office opinion, we're already guilty." Laura's voice cracked slightly. "I've worked too hard to get here, Ryan. I'm not losing everything because someone wants to start rumors." "What about what you said Friday night? About being lonely, about wanting connection?" Laura's expression shuddered. "Friday night was a mistake. I shouldn't have said those things. I shouldn't have invited you in. I should have called a rideshare and dealt with the consequences." "You don't mean that." I have to mean it, because the alternative is losing everything I've built." She straightened, pulled her professional armor back into place. "HR wants to meet with you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Be honest, be brief, and for the love of everything, don't elaborate. Answer their questions, nothing more." "Laura, that's all, Cole. You can go back to your desk." The dismissal stung. Ryan wanted to push back, wanted to argue that they shouldn't have to pretend Friday night meant nothing, but looking at Laura's face, closed off, defensive, afraid, he realized that pushing would only make things worse. "Yes, ma'am," he said quietly, and left. The rest of the day was excruciating. Ryan could feel people watching him, could hear the whispers that stopped when he walked by. He kept his head down, focused on his work, and counted the minutes until he could leave. At 4:45, his phone buzzed. A text from his mom. "Emma has a fever, 101.2. Already gave her children's Tylenol. Come get her when you can." Perfect. Because today wasn't bad enough already, Ryan grabbed his things and headed for the door. He made it halfway across the parking lot before he heard footsteps behind him. "Ryan, wait." He turned. Laura stood a few feet away, her blazer clutched in one hand, her expression raw in a way it hadn't been in her office. "I'm sorry," she said. "What I said earlier, I didn't mean it. Or I did, but not the way it came out." "Laura, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do. Because you drove me home in a dangerous storm, and I'm repaying that kindness by shutting you out." She took a step closer. "Friday night wasn't a mistake. The conversation we had mattered. You matter. But I'm scared, Ryan. I'm scared of losing my job, my reputation, everything I've worked for, and I'm taking that fear out on you, which isn't fair." Ryan felt some of the tension drain from his shoulders. "I get it. I'm scared too. I can't afford to lose this job. Emma depends on me." "I know. And that's what makes this so impossible, because we're both trapped by circumstances neither of us can control." Laura looked up at the sky, blinking hard. "I want to be your friend. I want to be able to have conversations like the one we had Friday night, but I don't know how to do that without risking everything." "So what do we do?" "We survive this. We get through the HR investigation. We prove there's nothing inappropriate happening." She met his eyes. "And then, I don't know. Maybe we figure out what's possible, but right now, we have to be careful." "Careful." "Right." Ryan shifted his weight. "I have to go. Emma's sick." Concern flickered across Laura's face. "Is she okay?" "Just a fever. My mom's got her, but I should get home." "Go. Take care of your daughter." Laura managed a small smile. "That's what matters. Everything else can wait." Ryan drove to his mother's house with his mind churning. The HR meeting tomorrow loomed like a storm cloud, but more immediate was Emma, who met him at the door looking miserable and pale. "My throat hurts," she whimpered, and Ryan's heart clenched. He thanked his mother, bundled Emma into the car, and spent the evening doing single-parent crisis management. More Tylenol, endless water, cold cloths, and a marathon of comfort movies that Emma barely watched. By midnight, her fever had broken and she was sleeping restlessly in her bed. Ryan sat in the chair beside her, watching her breathe, and felt the weight of everything crushing down on him. He was tired. Tired of juggling work and parenthood. Tired of being alone. Tired of making all the right choices and still feeling like he was barely keeping his head above water. His phone buzzed. A text from Laura. "How's Emma?" Ryan stared at the message for a long moment before responding. "Fever broke. She's sleeping." "Good. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be fine." "Will it?" The response came quickly. "It has to be." Ryan set his phone aside and closed his eyes, listening to Emma's breathing, trying to believe that Laura was right, that tomorrow would be fine, that this whole mess would blow over and everything would go back to normal. But deep down, he knew better. Normal was already gone. The moment he'd offered Laura that ride, something had shifted, and no amount of HR meetings or professional boundaries was going to shift it back. Tuesday morning, Ryan sat across from two HR representatives in a windowless conference room and answered questions about Friday night. Yes, he'd given Laura a ride. Yes, he'd stayed at her house. No, nothing inappropriate had occurred. No, there was no romantic relationship. No, he hadn't received any preferential treatment at work. The representatives were polite but thorough, their questions designed to probe for inconsistencies. Ryan stuck to the facts, kept his answers short, and tried not to let his frustration show. "We appreciate your cooperation, Mr. Cole," the senior rep said at the end. "We'll be in touch if we need any additional information." Ryan went back to his desk feeling wrung out. He'd done nothing wrong, but somehow he felt guilty anyway. Laura had her own meeting that afternoon. He saw her walk into the same conference room with her spine straight and her expression neutral. The rest of the week crawled by. Ryan kept his head down, avoided the break room, and spoke to Laura only when absolutely necessary. The professional distance she'd insisted on felt like a chasm now, and crossing it seemed impossible. By Friday, the gossip had died down. The HR investigation was ongoing but quiet. Ryan was beginning to think maybe they'd weathered the worst of it when Josh from QA cornered him in the parking garage. "Hey, Cole, got a minute?" Ryan considered lying, decided against it. "What do you want, Josh?" "I wanted to apologize for what I said Monday, in the break room." Josh had the grace to look uncomfortable. "It was out of line. I don't actually think anything's going on between you and Mitchell. I was just talking. You know how it is." "No, I don't know how it is. How is spreading rumors about people's personal lives just talking?" "Look, I said I'm sorry. What else do you want?" What Ryan wanted was to tell Josh exactly where he could shove his apology. But he was tired and Emma was waiting, and prolonging this conversation wouldn't change anything. "Just keep my name out of your mouth from now on," Ryan said. "We good?" "Yeah, we're good." Josh walked away, and Ryan leaned against his car, suddenly exhausted. His phone rang. Laura's name on the screen. He answered. "HR called," she said without preamble. "Investigations closed. No evidence of improper conduct. We're clear." Relief flooded through Ryan, so intense it made his knees weak. "That's good. That's really good." "Yeah." Laura's voice was odd, flat. "Listen, I think we should talk, not at the office. Can you meet me somewhere?" "When?" "Now?" "If you can. I know it's Friday and you have Emma. My mom can watch her for an hour." "Where?" Laura named a coffee shop across town, neutral territory far from the office. 30 minutes? I'll be there." Ryan called his mother, who agreed immediately to pick up Emma from school. Then he drove across town to a coffee shop he'd never been to, found Laura already there in a back corner booth, her hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't touched. He slid into the seat across from her. "You okay?" "We're clear," she said again, like she was trying to convince herself. "The investigation's over. Everything can go back to normal." "That's good news. Why don't you look happy?" Laura finally looked up at him, and Ryan saw something in her eyes that made his chest tighten. Because I realized something this week, something I didn't want to admit. What? That I don't want normal. I don't want to go back to the way things were, where you're just another person on my team, and I'm just your boss, and we pretend we don't know each other beyond work. Her voice was shaking now. That night, Friday night, that was the most real conversation I've had in years. And then I had to pretend it didn't matter because people were gossiping and HR was investigating and everything was falling apart. But it did matter, Ryan. It mattered to me. Ryan felt like he couldn't breathe. Laura, I'm not asking for anything, she said quickly. I know you have Emma. I know the situation is complicated. I know all the reasons why this is a terrible idea, but I needed you to know that I don't regret that night. I don't regret the conversation or the honesty or any of it, even with everything that happened after. For a long moment, Ryan didn't speak. He thought about the week he'd just endured, the gossip, the investigation, the careful distance. He thought about Emma, waiting at his mother's house. He thought about all the reasons this was impossible. Then he thought about Laura's voice in the darkness. I'm lonely, desperately, crushingly lonely. And he thought about his own loneliness, the kind that had become so familiar, he'd forgotten it wasn't normal. I don't regret it either, he said quietly, and that scares me, because I don't know what to do with that. We could start with being honest, Laura said, about what we want, about what's possible. What do you want? I want to be your friend, really your friend, not just your coworker. I want to have conversations that matter. I want to know about Emma and your life and all the things we don't talk about at work. She paused. And maybe, eventually, if we're both brave enough, I want to see if this could be something more. Ryan's heart was hammering. We work together. You're my team lead. I know. And that means we have to be careful. We have to keep things professional at work. No preferential treatment, no public displays, nothing that could compromise either of our positions. Laura leaned forward. But outside of work, in our own time, I don't think we have to apologize for wanting to be friends, or for wanting something more, if that's where this goes. People will talk. Let them. As long as we're not doing anything inappropriate, as long as we're both adults making informed choices, what we do outside of work is our business. Ryan wanted to believe her, wanted to believe this could work, that they could navigate the complicated territory between professional and personal, between what was safe and what was worth the risk. I'm a single father, he said. Emma comes first, always. That's non-negotiable. I would never ask you to compromise that. Emma's your daughter. She should come first. And I don't have a lot to offer right now. My life is complicated and messy, and there's not a lot of room for romance or grand gestures or any of the things you probably deserve. Laura smiled, and it was the first genuine smile Ryan had seen from her all week. Ryan, I'm 35 years old. I don't need grand gestures. I need honesty. I need someone who shows up. I need real. She reached across the table, stopped just short of touching his hand. You showed up Friday night. You stayed. You were real with me. That matters more than any grand gesture. Ryan looked down at her hand, so close to his. One move and he could close that distance. One choice and everything would change. He thought about Emma, safe with his mother. He thought about the week he'd just survived. He thought about all the risks, all the potential complications. Then he thought about Laura's kitchen, warm and welcoming, about conversation that had stripped away pretense, about what it felt like to be seen as a whole person instead of just a role. Slowly, carefully, he reached out and covered Laura's hand with his own. Okay, he said, let's try. But we do this right, slow, careful. Emma doesn't meet you until I'm sure this is real. Work stays work. No special treatment, no blurred lines. And if it gets too complicated, if it threatens either of our jobs or Emma's stability, we walk away. Deal? Laura's fingers curled around his. Deal. They sat there for a moment, hands joined across the coffee shop table, and Ryan felt something shift in his chest. It wasn't the explosive rush of new romance. It was quieter than that, steadier, like something settling into place that had been off balance for a long time. So what now? Laura asked. Now I go pick up my daughter and spend the weekend being a dad. and you go home and do whatever you do on weekends. Thrilling stuff, laundry and meal prep. Living the dream, Ryan said. Then before he could second guess himself, but maybe next weekend if you want, we could get coffee or dinner, something that's not a work emergency or a weather crisis. I'd like that. Ryan stood, reluctant to let go of her hand, but knowing he had to. Emma was waiting. His real life was waiting. But for the first time in a long time, that didn't feel like a burden. It felt like something worth protecting, and maybe, just maybe, Laura could be part of that without threatening it. I'll see you Monday, he said. Monday, Laura agreed. And Ryan, thank you for taking the chance. He smiled. Thank you for being worth it. Outside, the city was bright and clear, the last traces of Friday's storm long gone. Ryan drove to his mother's house, picked up Emma, who was feeling much better and demanded ice cream for dinner, and spent the evening being exactly what he needed to be, a father, present and focused. But later, after Emma was asleep and the house was quiet, Ryan's phone buzzed with a text from Laura. Made it home. Thank you for today. He smiled and typed back, thank you for being brave enough to say what you wanted. We're both being brave. That's what matters. Ryan set his phone aside and looked in on Emma one more time. She was sprawled across her bed, her rabbit clutched tight, her face peaceful in sleep. This was his world. This was what mattered most. But maybe, just maybe, there was room in that world for something else, for someone else, for a connection that didn't diminish what he had with Emma, but added to it. The thought didn't terrify him quite as much as it should have. And that, Ryan thought as he finally headed to bed, was progress. The following Tuesday, Ryan walked into the office with Emma's latest masterpiece, a drawing of what she insisted was a family of velociraptors but looked more like colorful scribbles tucked into his laptop bag. She'd made him promise to hang it at his desk, right where he could see it. He'd promised, because that's what fathers did. They kept promises, even small ones, about crayon drawings. The bullpen was already humming with activity. Developers hunched over keyboards, the coffee maker gurgling its endless cycle, someone's music bleeding through inadequate headphones. Normal Tuesday morning chaos. Ryan settled at his desk, pinned Emma's drawing to his monitor with a binder clip, and opened his laptop. Laura arrived at 9:15, her usual punctuality slightly off. Ryan noticed he'd become attuned to her rhythms over the past week, the small details he'd never paid attention to before. She caught his eye across the room, gave him the smallest smile, then disappeared into her office. Professional. Careful. Exactly what they'd agreed to. Ryan turned back to his code, but he was still smiling when Melissa from design appeared at his desk. That's new, she said, gesturing to Emma's drawing. My daughter's latest commission. She's very prolific. It's cute. Melissa hesitated, shifting her weight. Listen, Ryan, I wanted to apologize for the break room thing last week. I should have shut Josh down harder. You tried. That's more than most people did. Still, it wasn't cool. She glanced toward Laura's office, then back at Ryan. For what it's worth, I don't think anything inappropriate happened, and even if it had, it's none of our business. Ryan appreciated the sentiment, even if the qualifier stung. Thanks, Melissa. She nodded and headed back to her desk, leaving Ryan to wonder how many other people had opinions about his personal life. How many conversations had happened in break rooms and parking lots, dissecting a simple act of kindness until it became something ugly. The morning passed without incident. Stand-up at 10, sprint planning at 11, a deployment review that ran long because the staging environment kept throwing errors. Ryan volunteered to stay late and troubleshoot, which earned him a grateful look from Laura and knowing smirks from two junior developers who'd apparently decided his dedication had ulterior motives. Let them think what they wanted. Ryan was staying late because the work needed doing, not because of Laura. The fact that he'd see her after hours was coincidental. Mostly coincidental. By 6:30, the office had emptied out. Just Ryan at his desk, Laura in her office, and the night cleaning crew 2 floors down. Ryan finally isolated the staging bug, a misconfigured environment variable that someone had fat-fingered during the last deployment. He fixed it, ran the tests, confirmed everything was green, then stood and stretched muscles that had gone stiff from sitting. Laura's office door was open. She was still working, her desk lamp the only light in the dimming space. Ryan knocked softly on the doorframe. Staging's fixed. Deployment's good to go. Laura looked up, rubbed her eyes. What was it? Environment variable typo. Easy fix. Of course it was. She leaned back in her chair and Ryan could see the exhaustion in the set of her shoulders. Thank you for staying. I know you probably wanted to get home to Emma. She's at my mom's until 7:30. I've got time. He hesitated, then stepped into her office. You okay? You look tired. Just a long day. Long week, really. The investigation might be closed, but the fallout's still hanging around. I had 3 separate conversations today with people asking if everything was appropriate with the team dynamics. She made air quotes, her frustration evident, like I need to justify every interaction I have with my direct reports. That's bullshit. That's corporate politics. Laura closed her laptop, gathered her things. But I'm done thinking about it for today. Want to walk out together, or should we maintain the fiction that we barely know each other? Ryan glanced out at the empty bullpen. I think we're safe. Unless you're worried about the cleaning crew gossiping. At this point, let them. I'm too tired to care. They walked to the parking garage together, their footsteps echoing in the concrete space. Laura's car was fixed. She'd gotten it back from the shop over the weekend, and sat gleaming under the fluorescent lights a few spots from Ryan's aging Civic. Still on for this weekend? Laura asked as they reached her car. Ryan had almost forgotten. Coffee on Saturday, just the 2 of them, the first real date that wasn't precipitated by a natural disaster. Yeah, definitely. Emma's got a birthday party at noon, but I'm free after 2. 2:30? There's a place in Hawthorne I've been wanting to try. Text me the address. I'll be there. Laura smiled, and for a moment the exhaustion lifted from her features. I'm looking forward to it. Me too. She started to get into her car, then paused. Ryan? Thank you for not making this weird. I know we're navigating uncharted territory here, and you could have decided it wasn't worth the hassle. It's worth it, Ryan said simply. You're worth it. The words hung in the air between them, weighted with meaning. Laura's smile deepened, and she looked like she wanted to say something else, but instead she just nodded and got into her car. Ryan drove home with a strange lightness in his chest, collected Emma from his mother's house. She'd apparently spent the afternoon learning to make friendship bracelets and had 17 to show for it, and spent the evening being present in the way that mattered. Dinner, homework, bath time, stories. The comfortable rhythm of single parenthood. But later, after Emma was asleep, his phone buzzed with a text from Laura. Made it home. Looking forward to Saturday. Me too, Ryan typed back. Get some rest. You too. Give Emma a hug from me. Ryan stared at that last line for a long moment. Give Emma a hug from me. Such a simple thing, but it meant Laura was thinking about his daughter, acknowledging her existence beyond an abstract concept. That mattered more than Laura probably realized. The rest of the week passed in a blur of code reviews and meetings and careful professional distance. Ryan and Laura were scrupulously proper at work. No lingering conversations, no private meetings, nothing that could be misconstrued. But there were small moments. Laura bringing Ryan coffee the way he liked it. Ryan volunteering to take notes during a meeting so Laura could focus on presenting. A shared look across the bullpen when Josh made another obtuse comment about the code base. Small things, but they added up to something that felt like partnership. Friday afternoon, Ryan was packing up to leave when his phone rang. His mother's number. He answered immediately, already calculating which meeting he could skip, which deadline could slide. Ryan, Emma's fine, but her school called. Apparently there was an incident. His heart rate spiked. What kind of incident? She got into a fight with another student. No one's hurt, but the principal wants to meet with you Monday morning. Ryan closed his eyes, counted to 5. Emma had never been in a fight. She was loud and energetic and occasionally stubborn, but not violent. What happened? The school didn't give details, just said there was an altercation during recess, and both children are being disciplined. Is she upset? She's been very quiet. Won't really talk about it. I think she's embarrassed. I'm leaving now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Ryan grabbed his things and headed for the door. Laura was just coming out of a meeting, saw his face, and immediately diverted course. What's wrong? Emma, school incident. I have to go. Go. I'll cover for you if anyone asks. Then quieter. Let me know if you need anything. Ryan nodded his thanks and was out the door before she could say anything else. Emma was sitting on his mother's couch when he arrived, still in her school uniform, her face blotchy from crying. She looked up when Ryan walked in, and her face crumpled. I'm sorry, Daddy. Ryan sat beside her, pulled her into his lap even though she was getting too big for it. Tell me what happened, sweetheart. The story came out in fits and starts. A boy in her class, Dylan, had been teasing her all week about not having a mother. Today he'd called her a liar when she said her dad was the best parent in the world. Said everyone knew you needed a mom and a dad to be a real family. Emma had shoved him. Dylan had shoved back. A teacher had separated them before it escalated further. Ryan felt anger burn hot in his chest. Not at Emma, but at this Dylan kid. At the teacher who hadn't intervened before it got physical. At a world that made his daughter feel like her family wasn't enough. You shouldn't have pushed him, Ryan said gently. You know that, right? We use our words, not our hands. But he was lying. You are the best parent, and we are a real family. We absolutely are. But Emma, some people are going to say mean things. Some people won't understand our family, and that's their problem, not ours. But we can't push people just because they say things we don't like. Emma's lower lip trembled. He made me so mad, Daddy. I know, baby. I know. But you're better than that. You're smarter than that. Next time someone says something mean, what do? Tell a teacher, Emma mumbled. That's right. And if you can't find a teacher right away, walk away and count to 10. Exactly. Ryan kissed the top of her head. I'm proud of you for defending our family. I'm not proud that you pushed. We're going to have to talk to your principal Monday, and you're going to have to apologize to Dylan. You understand? Emma nodded miserably. Am I in big trouble? You're in some trouble. No TV this weekend, and you're going to write Dylan an apology letter. But you're not in huge trouble because I know you were trying to stand up for us. You just did it the wrong way. His mother appeared with hot chocolate, her universal solution to all childhood problems. Emma accepted it gratefully and slowly began to relax against Ryan's chest. He stayed there holding his daughter, feeling the weight of single parenthood settle heavy on his shoulders again. This was why relationships were complicated. This was why he'd been alone for so long. Because Emma needed him, needed all of him, and there wasn't always room for anything else. Later, after he'd taken Emma home and gotten her settled with dinner and a very boring evening of homework since TV was off limits, Ryan's phone buzzed. Laura. How is she? Ryan stared at the message, surprised. He'd been so caught up in Emma crisis mode that he'd forgotten he'd told Laura he was leaving early. She's okay. Got into a fight at school. First time ever. Is she hurt? No, just embarrassed and upset. Another kid was being a jerk about her not having a mother. The response took longer this time. When it came, it was longer too. That must have been hard for both of you. For what it's worth, Emma's lucky to have a dad who drops everything to be there for her. Some kids have two parents and neither of them show up. Ryan felt something tight in his chest loosen slightly. Thanks. That means a lot. Still on for tomorrow? Or do you need to cancel? I'd understand. Ryan thought about it, thought about Emma, who'd need extra attention this weekend, thought about the principal meeting Monday, thought about all the reasons he should cancel, should focus entirely on his daughter, should put this new thing with Laura on hold until life calmed down. Then he thought about Emma's words. You are the best parent, said with such fierce conviction, such absolute faith. And he thought about what kind of example he wanted to set for her, that when life got hard, you gave up on the things that mattered, or that you could be a good parent and still have something for yourself. Still on, he typed. I could use some adult time that doesn't involve discussing playground politics. Then I'll see you tomorrow, 2:30. And Ryan, you're doing a great job. With Emma? With everything. Don't forget that. Ryan read the message 3 times, then set his phone aside and went to check on Emma. She was in her pajamas, working on her apology letter with the kind of intense concentration she usually reserved for art projects. Daddy, how do you spell inappropriate? Ryan spelled it out, then read over her shoulder. The letter was simple but genuine. Sorry for pushing, understanding that words don't justify violence, hope they could start over. It was exactly what it needed to be. That's really good, Em. I'm proud of you. Emma looked up at him, her eyes still red-rimmed but clear. Do you think Dylan will forgive me? I think he might, and if he doesn't right away, that's okay. Sometimes people need time, but you did your part by apologizing. That's what matters. Emma nodded, went back to her letter. Ryan watched her for a moment, this fierce little person who was half him and half someone who'd chosen not to stay, all of her completely her own. She was growing up so fast, becoming her own person with her own ideas about justice and family and what mattered. He was doing okay. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not the way a two-parent household would do it, but okay. And maybe that was enough. Saturday morning was soccer practice, which Emma attacked with her usual enthusiasm despite the no TV punishment. Her team won this time, and she scored 2 goals, which put her in a good enough mood that Ryan felt comfortable leaving her with his mother for the afternoon. Hot date? His mother asked, her eyes twinkling. Just coffee with a friend. A friend named Laura? Ryan shot her a look. Did Emma tell you that? You did, just now, by confirming it. His mother smiled. Relax, honey. I think it's good. You deserve to have a life beyond work and parenting. Emma comes first. Of course she does. But you're allowed to be a whole person too. Your daughter needs a father who's happy, not just one who's sacrificing everything. She squeezed his arm. Go. Have coffee. Try to remember what it's like to be Ryan, not just Emma's dad. The coffee shop Laura had chosen was bright and modern, all reclaimed wood and Edison bulbs, the kind of place that took its pour-overs seriously. She was already there when Ryan arrived, seated at a corner table with 2 mugs in front of her. I ordered for you, she said as he sat down. Americano, right? That's what you always get at the office. You notice that? I notice a lot of things about you. Laura smiled. How's Emma doing? Ryan filled her in on the fight, the apology letter, the principal meeting Monday. Laura listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from concern to understanding to something that looked like admiration. She sounds like an amazing kid, Laura said when he finished. Fierce, loyal. She gets that from you. I don't know about that. I'm usually conflict avoidant to a fault. But you're fiercely loyal to the people you love. I saw that the night you gave me a ride home. You could have left, could have decided it wasn't your problem, but you stayed because it was the right thing to do. Laura wrapped her hands around her mug. That's the same instinct Emma was acting on. She saw someone threatening something she loves, and she defended it. She just needs to learn better methods. That's what I told her, though slightly less eloquently at 6 p.m. on a Friday when I was exhausted. They talked easily, the conversation flowing from Emma's fight to Laura's week to a debate about whether the new framework the company was considering was worth the migration headache. It felt natural, comfortable, like they'd been doing this for years instead of navigating their first real date. An hour passed, then another. The coffee shop filled and emptied around them, the afternoon light shifting through the windows. Ryan found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in months, maybe years. Not the forced relaxation of trying to decompress after a long day, but genuine ease. Can I ask you something? Laura said eventually, and feel free to tell me if I'm overstepping. After everything we've shared, I think we're past the point of overstepping. Emma's mother. You said she left when Emma was 18 months old. Do you ever worry she'll come back? Ryan was quiet for a moment, considering. Sometimes. Usually late at night when I can't sleep and my brain decides to catalog every possible worst-case scenario. But honestly, I think if she was going to come back, she would have by now. It's been almost 5 years. She's made her choice. And if she did come back, I'd deal with it, legally, emotionally, whatever it took to protect Emma. Because that's my job, protecting her, giving her stability, making sure she knows she's loved unconditionally. He met Laura's eyes. I know that probably sounds intense for a first date conversation. It sounds honest. I appreciate honest. Laura paused, seemed to gather herself. I should probably be honest too then. I'm scared, Ryan. Of this, of us, of what happens if it doesn't work out. I like you. A lot. More than I've liked anyone in a long time. But you have a daughter, a life that's already full and complicated, and I'm worried that I'm going to want more than you can give, or that I'll mess up and hurt Emma, or that we'll try this and it'll implode and then we still have to work together. Ryan reached across the table, covered her hand with his. I'm scared too. Terrified, actually. I haven't dated anyone seriously since Emma's mother left. I don't even know how to do this anymore. And you're right. My life is complicated. Emma will always come first, and there are going to be times when I have to cancel or leave early or prioritize her over everything else. I know that. I wouldn't want you to change that. But here's the thing. Ryan squeezed her hand gently. I'm willing to try anyway. Because what we have, this conversation, this connection, it's worth the risk. You're worth the risk. And maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe 6 months from now we realize this was a mistake. But at least we'll know. At least we'll have tried. Laura's eyes were bright. You're going to make me cry in a coffee shop. Please don't. I have no idea how to handle crying in public. She laughed, blinked hard. Okay, we're trying this, but we need ground rules. I'm listening. Emma doesn't meet me until you're absolutely sure this is going somewhere. I don't want to be someone who comes in and out of her life if we don't work out. Agreed. I was going to insist on that anyway. Work stays work. No special treatment, no blurred lines. We've already survived one HR investigation. I'd rather not go through another. Absolutely. And if either of us starts to feel like this isn't working, we talk about it. No ghosting, no passive-aggressive hints. We're adults. We communicate. Ryan smiled. Look at us, being mature and setting healthy boundaries. Revolutionary, I know. Laura turned her hand over, laced her fingers through his. So what now? Now I go pick up Emma and spend the evening being her dad. And you do whatever you need to do. And we take this one day at a time, as slow as we need to, until we figure out what this is. And Monday at work? Monday we're professional colleagues who happen to have excellent communication skills and mutual respect. We're very good at compartmentalizing. The best. They sat for a moment longer, hands joined across the table, before Ryan reluctantly pulled away. I really do have to go. My mom's patient, but not infinite. Go. Be Emma's dad. That's what matters. Laura stood when he did, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Then, making a decision, she leaned in and kissed his cheek. Quick, light, nothing inappropriate for a coffee shop. Text me when you get home? I will. Ryan walked out into the late afternoon sunshine, feeling lighter than he had in years. The drive to his mother's house passed in a blur, his mind replaying the conversation, the feel of Laura's hand in his, the promise of something real and careful and worth protecting. Emma was full of stories about her afternoon. She and his mother had made cookies. She'd beaten Grandma at Go Fish 3 times. She'd practiced her apology speech for Monday. She chattered the whole drive home, and Ryan led her, grateful for her resilience, for the way she could be devastated one day and bounce back the next. At home, he helped her with the disaster that was her bedroom, made dinner, and they spent the evening playing board games since TV was still off limits. Emma won at Candyland and insisted they play again. Ryan let her win the second time too, though she accused him of letting her and demanded a fair rematch. His phone buzzed while Emma was brushing her teeth. Laura, did you make it home okay? Yeah. Currently being destroyed at Candyland by a 6-year-old who's convinced I'm not trying hard enough. She sounds formidable. You have no idea. I'm genuinely scared of her. Good. Strong women start young. A pause, then. Thank you for today. I had a really nice time. Me too. Let's do it again soon? Definitely. Now go lose gracefully at Candyland. It builds character. Ryan smiled, pocketed his phone, and went to read Emma her bedtime stories. She picked 3 books, negotiated for a 4th, and finally settled down with her rabbit clutched tight. Daddy? She asked in the darkness. Am I still in trouble? About the fight? You're still grounded from TV, and you still have to meet with the principal Monday, but I'm not mad anymore. You made a mistake. You're making it right. That's all I ask. Okay. A pause. Daddy? Yeah, baby? I love you. You're the best dad in the whole world. Ryan felt his throat tighten. I love you too, Em. More than anything. He stayed until her breathing evened out, until he was sure she was asleep, then retreated to his own room. The house was quiet, Emma's nightlight casting familiar shadows down the hallway. This was his life, the good parts and the hard parts, the moments of joy and the moments of crisis, all of it bound together by love and responsibility and the fierce determination to be enough. And maybe, just maybe, there was room in that life for Laura, for careful steps toward something more, for the possibility that he could be Emma's dad and still be Ryan, complete and whole and deserving of connection. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Ryan had barely finished his coffee when his phone rang. The school's number. He answered with a sense of dread. The principal meeting went better than expected. Dylan's parents were there, their son appropriately contrite. Emma read her apology letter with a seriousness that made Ryan's chest swell with pride. The principal assigned both children lunch detention for a week and recommended they work together on a project about conflict resolution. "She's a good kid," the principal said to Ryan afterward. This was out of character for her. "I think the teasing had been building and she finally snapped. We'll make sure it doesn't happen again." Ryan thanked her, collected Emma, and drove her to school. She was quiet in the back seat, processing. "You did really good in there, Em. I'm proud of you." Dylan said he was sorry too. He said his parents told him not everyone has the same kind of family, and that's okay. His parents are right. "Are we going to be friends now? Me and Dylan?" "Maybe. Or maybe you'll just be classmates who respect each other. Both are okay." Emma seemed satisfied with that. Ryan dropped her off with a hug and a reminder to have a good day, then drove to work with the uncomfortable awareness that he was running late. Laura was already in her office when he arrived. She looked up as he passed, gave him a questioning look. He gave her a subtle thumbs up, and her expression relaxed. The day proceeded normally until just after lunch when Josh from QA appeared at Ryan's desk. "Hey, Cole. Got a minute?" Ryan braced himself. "What's up?" "I heard you and Mitchell are dating." Josh's tone was conversational, but there was an edge to it. "That true?" Every instinct Ryan had screamed to tell Josh to mind his own business, but that would just fan the flames. "Where'd you hear that?" "Around. Someone saw you two at a coffee shop Saturday, holding hands, looking cozy." Of course someone had seen them, because Portland was simultaneously a big city and a small town, and nothing stayed private. "I'm not discussing my personal life with you, Josh." "So it is true." Josh leaned against Ryan's desk, and there was something almost triumphant in his expression. "That's interesting. You know the company has policies about relationships between supervisors and their direct reports, right?" Ryan felt cold wash over him. "Laura's not my direct supervisor. She's a team lead. Different chain of command." "Is it, though? She runs your stand-ups, approves your PTO, does your performance reviews. Sounds like a supervisor to me." "If you have concerns about company policy, take them to HR, but stay out of my personal life." Josh's smile was sharp. "Just looking out for the team, man. Wouldn't want anyone getting preferential treatment. Or worse, wouldn't want anyone's career to get derailed because they couldn't keep things professional." He walked away before Ryan could respond, leaving Ryan staring at his monitor with his heart pounding. This was exactly what Laura had worried about. The scrutiny, the gossip, the implication that their relationship, if they even had a relationship yet, was somehow inappropriate. Ryan pulled out his phone, sent Laura a message. "We need to talk. Privately." Her response came within seconds. "My office. 5 minutes." Ryan waited the full 5 minutes. No need to add fuel to whatever fire Josh was trying to start. Then walked to Laura's office. She closed the door behind him, pulled the blinds. "What happened?" Ryan told her about Josh's comments, watching Laura's expression shift from concern to anger to something that looked like resignation. "He's right about the policy," she said quietly. "Technically, I do have supervisory responsibilities over you. And the company policy is clear. Relationships between supervisors and subordinates have to be disclosed to HR. So we disclose it." "Ryan, we've been on one date. What exactly are we disclosing? That we had coffee? That we held hands?" Laura pressed her palms against her desk. "If we go to HR now, it becomes official. It goes in our personnel files. It affects my ability to do my job. You're standing on the team. And for what? We don't even know if this is going to work out. So what are you saying? Laura closed her eyes. I'm saying maybe Josh is right. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe we should have kept things professional. You don't mean that. Don't I? She opened her eyes, and Ryan could see the conflict there. I've worked so hard to get where I am. 10 years of proving myself, of being twice as good to get half the credit, of fighting for every promotion and every ounce of respect. And now I'm risking it all for what? A relationship that might not even last 6 months? It might last longer than that. Or it might not. And then what? Then we're still working together, still having to see each other every day, still navigating the awkwardness. And my reputation, which already took a hit from the last investigation, takes another blow. The woman who couldn't keep her personal life separate from her professional life, the team lead who dated her subordinate. Ryan felt something crack in his chest. So you want to stop? Before we even really start? I don't want to, but I think maybe we should. Laura's voice broke slightly. I'm sorry, Ryan, I really am, but I can't risk everything I've built. Not for this. Not when we don't even know what this is yet. The words hit him like physical blows. Ryan took a step back, needing distance, needing air. Right. Okay. I understand. Do you? Because you look angry. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. There's a difference. Ryan moved toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, I think you're wrong. I think we could have figured this out. I think what we have is worth fighting for. But you have to want to fight for it too. And if you don't, then yeah, maybe it's better to stop now. He left before she could respond, walked back to his desk with his jaw clenched and his chest tight. Around him, the office buzzed with normal Tuesday afternoon energy, oblivious to the fact that something fragile had just shattered. Ryan tried to focus on his code, but the words blurred. He tried to lose himself in the familiar rhythm of problem solving, but his mind kept replaying Laura's words. Maybe this was a mistake. At 4:30, his phone buzzed. Laura, can we talk? Please? Ryan stared at the message. Part of him wanted to ignore it, to let her stew in her decision. But that wasn't who he was. He'd never been good at holding grudges, not here. After work? Same coffee shop? 6? Fine. The rest of the afternoon crawled by. Ryan left exactly at 5:30, drove to his mother's to pick up Emma, then brought her back to the house and settled her with homework. I have to go out for a little while, he told her. Grandma's coming over to stay with you. Where are you going? I have to talk to someone about work stuff. Emma studied him with the unsettling perception of children who know when something's wrong. Are you sad, Daddy? I'm okay, sweetheart. Just dealing with some grown-up things. His mother arrived right at 6, took one look at Ryan's face, and pulled him aside. What's wrong? Just some work drama. I'll explain later. He kissed Emma goodbye, promised to be home soon, and drove to the coffee shop with his stomach in knots. Laura was already there, in the same corner table. But this time there was no coffee waiting, no easy smile. She looked exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed. Ryan sat across from her, said nothing. If she'd called this meeting, she could start it. I'm sorry, Laura said finally. What I said earlier, it came from fear, not truth. I panicked. Josh's comments made me panic, and I did what I always do when I'm scared. I tried to control the situation by shutting it down. I understand why you're scared. I'm scared too. But you can't keep making decisions based on worst-case scenarios. I know. My therapist tells me the same thing. Laura managed a weak smile. I'm good at catastrophizing. It's one of my many talents. So what do you want? Really? Laura took a breath, let it out slowly. I want to try. Despite the complications and the policies and Josh's commentary on my personal life. I want to see where this goes, but I think you're right. We need to disclose it to HR. Make it official. That way we're protected, and no one can accuse us of hiding anything. We've been on one date. I know, but we're clearly more than friends. And I'd rather disclose early and be transparent than wait and have it blow up in our faces. She reached across the table, stopped just short of touching his hand. I talked to my old manager this afternoon. Asked her about the policy. Relationships between team members aren't forbidden, but they do have to be disclosed. and sometimes they require a reporting structure change. In our case, that might mean you reporting to someone else on paper, even though I'd still be working with you day to day. You've really thought this through. I spent 3 hours thinking about nothing else, ran every scenario, considered every angle, and they all come back to the same conclusion. I want this. I want you. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it work without compromising either of our jobs. Ryan felt some of the tightness in his chest ease. Okay, we talked to HR. We disclose the relationship. We let them decide what structural changes, if any, need to happen. And we deal with whatever comes. And if they decide we can't work on the same team, then we figure it out. One of us transfers or one of us finds a new job if it comes to that. But we make those decisions together, not out of fear. Laura's eyes filled. You'd really leave Cascade Tech for this? For me? I'd consider it, if it came to that. But let's not borrow trouble. Let's just take this one step at a time. Ryan finally closed the distance, took her hand. I meant what I said Saturday. You're worth the risk. So are you. You and Emma both. They sat in silence for a moment, hands joined across the table. Then Laura spoke again, her voice quiet. There's something else you should know. I'm meeting with the VP of Engineering tomorrow, putting in for a lateral transfer to a different team. It'll take me out of your direct reporting chain completely. Ryan's eyes widened. Laura, you don't have to. I want to. It's not just about us. I've been thinking about it for a while. There's a new product initiative starting, and they need a strong technical lead. It's the same level as my current position, same pay, but it would give me a chance to build something from scratch. She squeezed his hand. And it would solve our work problem. I wouldn't be your supervisor anymore, even technically. We'd just be colleagues at the same company. That's a big change. I'm ready for it. And honestly, getting away from Josh and the constant politics sounds pretty appealing right about now. Ryan smiled despite everything. When do you find out? Probably by end of week, but I'm fairly confident they'll approve it. They've been trying to fill that position for months. Then I guess we wait and see. And in the meantime, we're careful at work. We don't give anyone ammunition, and outside of work, we take this as slow as we need to, building something real. Laura stood, came around the table, and wrapped her arms around Ryan in a hug that felt like relief and promise wrapped together. Thank you for not giving up on this. On us. Ryan held her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. I don't give up on things that matter. You should know that about me by now. They stood like that for a long moment before Laura pulled back. You should get home to Emma, and I should probably eat something that isn't coffee. Take care of yourself. You too. Ryan drove home with something that felt like hope unfurling in his chest. Emma was waiting with stories about her day. She and Dylan had actually worked together on their conflict resolution project and discovered they both liked dinosaurs. His mother stayed for dinner, listened to Emma's enthusiastic retelling, and gave Ryan a knowing look he chose to ignore. After Emma was in bed, Ryan sat on his back porch and called Laura. Hey, she answered, sounding surprised. Everything okay? Yeah, I just wanted to hear your voice. He could hear her smile through the phone. That's very sweet. How's Emma? Good. She made friends with the kid she got in a fight with. Apparently they bonded over velociraptors. See? Everything works out. Not everything, but some things. Ryan leaned back in his chair, looked up at the stars. I'm glad you called that meeting. I'm glad we talked. Me too. I hate the way we left things this afternoon. It's forgotten. We're starting fresh. They talked for another hour, about nothing and everything, until Laura yawned and Ryan realized how late it had gotten. Get some sleep, he said. Big day tomorrow. You too. And Ryan, thank you for being patient with me while I figure this out. Always. After they hung up, Ryan sat in the darkness for a while longer, thinking about Laura's decision to transfer, about the risk she was taking, about the careful way they were building something that mattered. It wasn't easy. It wasn't simple. But it was real. And real, Ryan was learning, was worth fighting for. Laura's transfer was approved by Thursday. Ryan found out the same way everyone else did, through the company-wide announcement email that landed in his inbox at 2:47 p.m. He read it twice, a smile tugging at his lips despite the professional language about exciting new opportunities and strategic product initiatives. Between the corporate speak, the message was clear. Laura Mitchell was moving to a different team, effective immediately, and the transition would be seamless. Across the bullpen, Ryan could see people processing the news. Some looked surprised, others relieved. Josh from QA wore an expression that suggested he thought he'd won something, which made Ryan's jaw tighten. His phone buzzed. Laura, check your email, just did. Congratulations. Meet me in conference room C in 10 minutes. I'm doing individual transition meetings. I'll be there. Ryan waited exactly 10 minutes, then made his way to the small conference room tucked in the back corner of the floor. Laura was already there, sitting at the head of the table with a stack of folders in front of her. She looked professional, composed, every inch the team lead conducting official business. But when the door closed behind Ryan, her shoulders dropped slightly. That was fast, Ryan said, taking the seat across from her. The VP was eager to get me started. Apparently the new product launch is already behind schedule, and they need someone who can hit the ground running. Laura slid a folder across the table. This is the transition plan for the team. Marcus will be taking over as acting team lead until they hire someone permanent. I've documented all ongoing projects, flagged potential issues, and made recommendations for sprint priorities. Ryan opened the folder, scanned the meticulous notes. This is thorough. I don't do things halfway. Laura's professional mask slipped slightly. How's the team taking it? Mixed reactions. Some people seem relieved. Others are worried about the transition. And Josh looks like he thinks he personally drove you out, which is annoying. Let him think what he wants. I got what I wanted. A new challenge, a fresh start, and no more reporting structure complications. She paused, then added quietly, and no more obstacles between us. Is that what this is really about? Us? Laura considered the question carefully. Yes and no. I meant what I said about wanting the new role. It's a genuine opportunity, and I'm excited about it. But would I have pursued it so aggressively if we weren't trying to navigate this relationship? Probably not. So it's both things, a good career move that also happens to solve our personal problem. I don't want you to resent me for this, for pushing you into a transfer. You didn't push me anywhere. I made this choice. And honestly, Ryan, I think it's the right one regardless of us. I've been stagnating on this team for a while. I needed something new. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. But I won't lie and say you weren't part of the equation. You were? You are. The door opened without warning. Marcus Chen, the senior developer who'd apparently drawn the short straw of temporary team lead, stuck his head in. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Laura, you wanted to see me at 3? Laura pulled her hand back smoothly, all business again. Yes. Give me 5 more minutes with Cole and then we'll talk. Marcus nodded and disappeared. Laura stood, gathering her folders. We should probably keep meetings short for a while, she said, until people stop watching us quite so closely. Agreed. Ryan stood too. When's your last day with the team? Tomorrow's my last official day, but I'm doing transition meetings all day. Then Monday I start with the new product team. She hesitated. I know this changes things. Work-wise, I mean. We won't see each other as much during the day. That's probably for the best. Less temptation to blur lines. And outside of work? Ryan smiled. Outside of work, I was hoping we could have dinner this weekend. Actual dinner, not coffee. Maybe somewhere nice? I'd like that. Saturday? Saturday works. Emma has a sleepover at my mom's, so I'm actually free all evening. Laura's eyes lit up. A whole evening? No 6-year-old emergency backup plan required? Shocking, I know. I'm as surprised as you are. Then let's make it count. I'll make reservations somewhere good. She walked him to the door, then paused with her hand on the handle. Thank you, Ryan, for being patient with all this, for not making me choose between my career and you. You shouldn't have to choose. We'll figure out how to have both. She squeezed his hand once, quickly, then opened the door. Marcus was waiting in the hallway, and just like that, they were back to being professionals. Ryan returned to his desk, pulled up the transition documentation, and tried to focus on the technical details instead of the way Laura had looked at him when she said, "Let's make it count." Friday passed in a blur of handoff meetings and knowledge transfers. Laura moved through the day with characteristic efficiency, making sure every loose end was tied, every question answered, every team member confident in the path forward. Ryan participated in his transition meeting along with 3 other developers, taking notes about ongoing projects and asking the kinds of questions that would make the shift as smooth as possible. By 5 o'clock, Laura's desk was cleared. The personal photos were packed. The coffee mug she always used was gone. The small, succulent plant that had somehow survived her care had been relocated to her new space 2 floors up. Ryan watched from across the bullpen as she did one final sweep of her office, then emerged with a small cardboard box of belongings. The team had gathered for an impromptu goodbye. Nothing official, just a handful of people who'd worked closely with Laura and wanted to acknowledge her departure. Someone had brought cookies from the good bakery downtown. Someone else had printed out a card that everyone had signed. "Speech!" called one of the junior developers. Laura laughed, set down her box. "I'm not going far, just 2 floors up. You'll probably still see me in the cafeteria stealing your good coffee." "Still," Marcus said, "you've been leading this team for 3 years. That deserves more than just slinking off to a new floor." Laura's expression softened. "Okay. Thank you, all of you, for making this team what it is. You're brilliant developers and better people. Keep pushing each other, keep asking hard questions, and for the love of everything, please write better commit messages." That got a laugh. "I'm excited about the new role, but I'm going to miss working with you every day. Don't be strangers, okay?" There were hugs, a few tears from people who got emotional easily, and genuine well wishes. Ryan hung back, watching Laura navigate the goodbye with grace. When the crowd finally dispersed and Laura headed for the elevator with her box, Ryan fell into step beside her. "Need help carrying that?" "It's 1 box, Cole. I think I can manage." "Humor me. I'm trying to be chivalrous." Laura smiled, handed him the box. They rode the elevator up to the 7th floor in comfortable silence. The new product team's space was smaller, more cramped, with the energy of something just getting started. Laura's new office was a glass-walled cube in the corner, smaller than what she'd had before, but with a better view of the city. Ryan set the box on her new desk. "Nice digs." "It'll do." Laura pulled out the succulent, placed it on the windowsill. "New start, right?" "Right." Ryan leaned against the doorframe, watching her unpack. "You nervous?" "Terrified, excited, all of it." She looked up at him. "But mostly I'm relieved. No more walking on eggshells, no more worrying about every interaction being scrutinized. We did the right thing, getting ahead of this." "We did." Ryan checked his watch. "I should go. Emma's waiting, and I promised her pizza for dealing with my distracted parenting all week. Give her a hug for me." "I will." He started to leave, then turned back. "Laura, tomorrow night. I'm really looking forward to it." "Me too. I'll text you the details." Ryan drove home with something that felt like possibility humming in his chest. The structural barriers were gone now. Laura wasn't his supervisor anymore, wasn't in his reporting chain, wasn't anything but a colleague he was interested in dating. The complications were simpler now, more manageable. Emma was in rare form that evening, full of energy from a week that had somehow transformed a fight into a friendship and turned Dylan into her new dinosaur expert consultant. She talked through dinner about the Parasaurolophus facts Dylan had shared, about their conflict resolution project that had earned them both stars from the principal, about the sleepover at Grandma's tomorrow that she was so totally excited about. "Can I bring my new dinosaur book?" Emma asked as Ryan tucked her in. "Grandma said she wants to learn about velociraptors." "Grandma's going to regret saying that." "Probably." Emma grinned, then grew more serious. "Daddy, are you happy?" The question caught Ryan off guard. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "You've been smiling more. This week, you smile a lot, even when you're tired." Emma studied him with those too perceptive 6-year-old eyes. "Did something good happen?" Ryan considered how to answer. Emma was too young to understand the full situation with Laura, too young to be introduced to someone who might not stick around. But she was also sharp enough to notice when her father's mood shifted. "Some things at work got easier," he said carefully, "and I've been spending time with a friend who makes me happy. That's all." "A friend like Uncle Marcus? Or a different kind of friend?" "A different kind. But it's still new, so I'm not ready to talk about it yet." okay? Emma nodded, satisfied. Okay, but I'm glad you're happy. You should be happy more. Ryan kissed her forehead, his chest tight with love for this fierce, perceptive little person. I'm working on it, baby. I promise. After Emma fell asleep, Ryan's phone buzzed with a text from Laura. Reservations at 7 tomorrow. And Dina. Hope you like Peruvian food. Dress nice. I'll try not to embarrass you. Impossible. You're too handsome to be embarrassing. Ryan stared at that message, feeling warmth spread through him. They'd been carefully professional all week, maintaining distance, respecting boundaries. But this felt like Laura letting her guard down, being honest about her attraction instead of hiding behind propriety. You're pretty easy on the eyes yourself, he typed back, flirting via text. We're like teenagers, except with better grammar and actual responsibilities. Speak for yourself. My grammar is questionable at best. They texted back and forth for another hour, the conversation meandering from weekend plans to a debate about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Laura was firmly pro, Ryan adamantly against, to comfortable silence punctuated by occasional observations about nothing in particular. Eventually, Laura sent, I should sleep. Big day tomorrow, unpacking my new office and then trying to remember how to be a person who goes on actual dates. You'll be great. I'll be the nervous one. We'll be nervous together. It's more romantic that way. Good night, Laura. Good night, Ryan. Sweet dreams. Ryan fell asleep with his phone still in his hand, a smile on his face, and for the first time in years, genuine anticipation for what tomorrow might bring. Saturday morning arrived with Emma's excited shrieking at approximately 7 a.m. Ryan stumbled out of bed to find his daughter already dressed and packed for her grandmother's house, her overnight bag overflowing with books, toys, and approximately 17 stuffed animals. I'm ready, she announced. Can we go to Grandma's now? Grandma's not expecting us until noon. But I'm ready now. Ryan laughed, scooped her up despite her protest that she was too big for that. How about we make pancakes and then you can help me clean the house? Do I have to? Unless you want to come home tomorrow to a disaster zone. Emma considered this, then nodded sagely. Okay, but I get chocolate chips in my pancakes. They spent the morning in comfortable domesticity, breakfast, cleaning, Emma's attempt to help that mostly involved getting in the way and providing commentary. By the time Ryan dropped her at his mother's house, Emma had lectured him extensively on velociraptors, rearranged the living room furniture for better energy flow, and extracted promises for 3 different activities the following week. Have fun tonight, his mother said as Emma disappeared into the house with her overstuffed bag. You look nervous. I'm fine. You're wearing cologne. You never wear cologne. Maybe I'm trying new things. His mother smiled, the kind of knowing smile mothers perfected. Laura's good for you. I can see it. You're lighter somehow. We've been on 1 date, Mom. Don't marry us off yet. I'm not marrying anyone off. I'm just observing that my son seems happy for the first time in a long time. Let me have this. Ryan hugged her, grateful for her support even when it came with gentle teasing. Thanks for watching, Emma. Anytime. Now go. Take a shower. Maybe iron your shirt. Try to remember how to be charming. Ryan went home, showered, and stood in front of his closet longer than he cared to admit, trying to figure out what dress nice meant. He settled on dark jeans, a button-down shirt that Emma had once declared made him look fancy, and shoes that weren't sneakers. The cologne his mother had noticed was a subtle touch, applied after considerable internal debate. By 6:30, he was pacing his living room, checking his watch every 30 seconds. By 6:45, he was in his car, arriving at the restaurant 15 minutes early because apparently he'd forgotten how to time arrivals appropriately. Andina was warm and intimate, with exposed brick walls and soft lighting that made everyone look like they had secrets worth keeping. Ryan gave his name to the hostess, was shown to a table tucked in a corner, and tried to remember how to breathe normally. Laura arrived at 6:58, and Ryan's brain momentarily stopped working. She was wearing a dress, deep green, simple but elegant, nothing like the professional blazers and slacks he was used to seeing her in. Her hair was down, falling in dark waves past her shoulders, and she'd done something different with her makeup that made her eyes look impossibly large. Hi, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. Hi, you look... Ryan struggled to find words that weren't completely inadequate. Wow. Laura's smile was pleased and slightly self-conscious. You clean up pretty well yourself. Is that cologne? My mom noticed too. Is it too much? It's perfect. Laura accepted a menu from the server who materialized at their table. Thank you for agreeing to this place. I know it's probably pricier than your usual Friday night pizza. But Emma's not here to judge my menu choices. I can handle adult food. They ordered, Laura getting the chef's tasting menu, Ryan trusting her judgment and doing the same, and fell into conversation that flowed as easily as it had in her kitchen that first storm-soaked night. They talked about Laura's first day in the new role, about the chaos of ramping up on an already behind project, about the personalities on her new team that she was still learning to navigate. It's exciting, though, Laura said as their first course arrived, some kind of ceviche that Ryan couldn't pronounce but tasted incredible. Building something from scratch, having actual input on the direction instead of just maintaining legacy systems. I forgot how much I missed that creative energy. You sound happy. I am. Nervous, but happy. Laura paused, set down her fork. Can I tell you something? Something I realized this week? Always. I've spent so much of my career playing it safe, taking the secure path, the predictable advancement, avoiding anything that might be perceived as risky. And it got me pretty far. I'm good at what I do. I'm respected. I make good money. But I was also profoundly unhappy, just going through the motions, checking boxes, waiting for something to change without actually changing anything myself. And now? Now I'm terrified because I made a big change and I don't know if it'll work out. But I also feel alive in a way I haven't in years. Does that make sense? Ryan reached across the table, covered her hand with his. Complete sense. I felt the same way after Emma's mom left. Terrified, overwhelmed, but also more present and engaged than I'd been in our entire relationship. Sometimes the scary changes are the ones we need most. Laura turned her hand over, laced her fingers through his. When did you get so wise? Single parenthood is a crash course in perspective. You learn pretty quickly what actually matters and what's just noise. They ate their way through the tasting menu, each course somehow better than the last, the flavors complex and surprising. The conversation wandered from deep to playful and back again, touching on everything from childhood memories to professional aspirations to a heated debate about the best Star Wars movie that ended in laughing agreement to disagree. Somewhere around the fourth course, Laura said, I should tell you, I submitted our relationship disclosure to HR yesterday. Ryan's eyebrows rose. We have a relationship to disclose? We're on our second date. We're holding hands. We text each other good morning. I'd call that the beginning of a relationship. Laura's expression was carefully neutral, but Ryan could see the vulnerability underneath. Unless you disagree? No. I agree. I just didn't want to assume. So it's official then. We're dating. HR has been notified. We're being appropriately transparent and professional. We're very responsible adults. The most responsible. Laura's smile turned mischievous. Want to do something wildly irresponsible and get dessert even though we're already stuffed? Absolutely. They ordered dessert, some kind of chocolate situation that came with multiple components and required architectural engineering to eat properly. Ryan watched Laura attack it with the same focused intensity she brought to debugging code and felt something warm settle in his chest. This was real. This careful thing they were building, this tentative exploration of what might be possible between them. It wasn't the passionate whirlwind of new romance. It was slower, steadier, built on actual foundation instead of just chemistry. What are you thinking? Laura asked, catching him staring. That I'm really glad your car broke down that night. Worst timing, best outcome? Something like that. They lingered over dessert and coffee, neither wanting the evening to end. When the check finally came, Ryan insisted on paying, Laura insisted on splitting it. They compromised on taking turns for future dates. It was past 10. Outside, the Portland night was cool and clear, the city alive with Saturday night energy. They walked slowly toward where Ryan had parked, their hands finding each other naturally. This was really nice, Laura said. Best date I've had in... I don't even remember how long. Me too. And I haven't been on many dates, so that's not saying much, but still. Laura laughed, leaned into his side slightly. They'd reached his car, and suddenly Ryan didn't want the night to end, didn't want to drive home to his empty house, to spend the rest of the evening alone while Emma was at his mother's. Do you want to... He started, then stopped, reconsidered. Never mind. Do I want to what? Come back to my place for a bit? Just to talk. I know it's late and I don't want to presume anything, but Emma's gone for the night, and my house is actually clean for once, and I'm not ready for this to be over yet. Laura studied his face in the streetlight, and Ryan could see her weighing the implications, the risk, the meaning behind the invitation. Just to talk? She asked carefully. Just to talk. Scout's honor. You were never a scout. But I always tell the truth. Emma's rules. Laura smiled, squeezed his hand. Okay, let's go talk. The drive to Ryan's house took 15 minutes, most of it spent in comfortable silence with Ryan's hand resting on the console between them where Laura could reach it when she wanted. His house was a small craftsman in southeast Portland. Nothing fancy, but solidly maintained with a yard that Emma loved, and a porch swing that Ryan never used but couldn't bring himself to remove. Inside, evidence of Emma was everywhere, her backpack by the door, her shoes scattered across the entryway, her artwork taped to the refrigerator, her chapter book stacked on the coffee table. Ryan saw Laura taking it all in, this window into his real life beyond work and coffee shop dates. Sorry about the mess. I cleaned this morning, but Emma has a gift for creative chaos. It's perfect. It's lived in. It's real. Laura picked up one of Emma's drawings from the coffee table, a family portrait featuring Ryan, Emma, and approximately 7 dinosaurs. She's very talented. She's very enthusiastic. The talent is debatable. I think it's wonderful. Laura set the drawing down carefully. Your house is exactly what I imagined. Is that good or bad? Very good. Warm, comfortable. A place that feels like someone actually lives here instead of just exists between work shifts. Ryan moved into the kitchen, suddenly nervous. Coffee? Wine? I have both, though the wine is probably terrible. Someone gave it to me for Christmas 2 years ago and I never drink it. Coffee's good. I've probably had enough wine. Ryan started the coffee maker, grateful for something to do with his hands. Laura wandered the living room, studying the photos on the mantel. Emma as a baby. Emma's first day of kindergarten. Emma and Ryan at the beach last summer, both of them sandy and grinning. You're a really good dad, Laura said quietly. You can see it in these photos, how much she loves you, how safe she feels with you. I'm trying. Some days I'm better at it than others. That's all any parent can do. The coffee finished brewing. Ryan poured 2 mugs, handed one to Laura, and they settled on opposite ends of his well-worn couch. The same couch where he'd spent countless evenings reading to Emma, where they'd built blanket forts and watched movies and had serious conversations about why dinosaurs were extinct and whether dragons were real. Can I ask you something personal? Laura said after a moment. We're past the point of asking permission for personal questions. Do you ever think about Emma's mom? Wonder where she is, what she's doing? Ryan considered the question, rolling his coffee mug between his palms. Sometimes, usually when Emma asks about her, which happens less now than it used to, she's accepted that it's just me and her, that her family looks different from other families. But yeah, I wonder if she's happy, if she ever thinks about us, if she regrets leaving. Do you regret it? That she left? No, that sounds harsh, but it's true. She was unhappy. I was unhappy. We were terrible together. If she'd stayed out of obligation, it would have been worse for everyone, especially Emma. At least this way, Emma has one parent who's fully present, instead of 2 parents who are miserable. Laura was quiet for a long moment. My parents divorced when I was 8, she said finally. Messy, ugly, lots of fighting and lawyers and custody battles. And you know what the worst part was? They both stayed in my life, but they were both so bitter and angry that every interaction was tainted by it. Holidays were negotiated conflicts. School events were cold wars. I spent my entire childhood wishing they would just let go of each other instead of using me as a weapon. That sounds awful. It was. But it taught me something important, that staying together for the kids is sometimes the worst thing you can do. That children need peace more than they need the illusion of an intact family. She looked at Ryan directly. Emma's lucky. Her mom made a hard choice, a choice that probably broke her too, but at least Emma gets to grow up in a home without constant conflict.
I never thought about it that way. Most people don't. We're sold this narrative that two parents are always better, that families should look a certain way. But the best families are the ones where kids feel loved and safe and seen. And from everything you've told me, Emma has that with you. Ryan felt his throat tighten. Thank you for saying that. Most people either pity me or judge me when they find out I'm a single dad, like I'm either a martyr or a failure, with no in between. You're neither. You're just a person doing your best with complicated circumstances, same as everyone else. They talked late into the night, the conversation drifting from parenting to careers to dreams they'd set aside and might pick up again someday. Laura told him about her brother, the marine biologist, about childhood summers in Seattle, about the novel she'd started writing in college and never finished.
Ryan talked about his mother's unwavering support, about the coding boot camp that had changed his career trajectory, about the guitar in his closet that he kept meaning to relearn. Somewhere around midnight, Laura stifled a yawn. Ryan glanced at the clock, surprised at how quickly the time had passed. I should let you go, he said reluctantly. It's late. Yeah, I should get home. Laura stood, stretched, then looked at Ryan with something complicated in her expression. Can I tell you something, and promise you won't read too much into it? Okay? I don't want to leave. I want to stay here, on this couch, talking to you until the sun comes up. And that scares me a little, how comfortable this feels. How right. Ryan stood too, moved close enough that he could smell her perfume, see the flecks of gold in her eyes. That scares me too. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the scary thing is the right thing. Maybe. Laura reached up, touched his face gently. I'm going to kiss you now, if that's okay. Very okay. She leaned in slowly, giving him time to pull back if he wanted. He didn't want. Their lips met softly, tentatively, a question and an answer all at once. Laura's hand slid to the back of his neck, and Ryan's arms came around her waist, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, became something more urgent, and for a moment Ryan forgot everything except the taste of her, the feel of her against him, the rightness of this. Then Laura pulled back, breathing hard, her eyes dark. I should really go now, she said, before I decide not to. Ryan rested his forehead against hers, his heart pounding. Probably wise. Walk me to my car? They made it to the door before Laura turned back, kissed him once more, quick and sweet. Thank you. For tonight. For all of it. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Easiest risk I've ever taken. Ryan walked her to her car, watched her drive away, then stood on his porch for a long moment, looking up at the stars. His phone buzzed. Laura. Made it home. Still thinking about that kiss. Me too. Best part of the night. Better than the ceviche? Infinitely better. Good. Because I plan to do it again, soon. Ryan went inside with a smile he couldn't suppress, cleaned up the coffee mugs, and finally headed to bed. The house felt different somehow, less lonely, more full of possibility, like the walls had absorbed the evening's conversation and held it, a promise of more nights like this. He fell asleep thinking about Laura's words. The scary thing is the right thing. Maybe she was right. Maybe the leap was worth it, complications and all. His phone buzzed one last time before sleep claimed him. Laura again. Sweet dreams, Ryan Cole. I'm really glad we're doing this. Me too, he typed back. Me too. And for the first time in 5 years, Ryan fell asleep feeling like his life wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about building something new, something real, something worth the risk of opening his carefully guarded heart. Tomorrow he'd pick up Emma, spend Sunday being her dad, return to the comfortable rhythm of single parenthood. But tonight, just for tonight, he let himself imagine a future that included more than just the two of them. A future where Laura's laughter filled his house, where Emma's dinosaur expertise could be shared with someone new, where Ryan could be both a devoted father and a man capable of love. The scary thing might just be the right thing after all. 3 months passed in a careful dance of patience and growing certainty. Ryan and Laura built their relationship the way Emma built her elaborate Lego structures, piece by piece, testing each connection before adding the next, making sure the foundation was solid before reaching higher. They had dinner every Saturday night, coffee on Wednesday mornings before work, phone calls that stretched past midnight when neither could sleep. They learned each other slowly, deliberately, without the rush of new romance demanding they skip steps. Laura learned that Ryan was quietly funny, that he hoarded sticky notes with important reminders he'd never look at again, that he couldn't cook anything more complicated than pasta, but made the world's best scrambled eggs. She learned he was fiercely protective of the people he loved, that he carried guilt about things beyond his control, that he still had the college hoodie he'd worn the night he'd decided to keep Emma and raise her alone. Ryan learned that Laura was brilliant but insecure about it, that she stress-baked at 2 a.m. and showed up at work with experimental cookies no one wanted to eat, that she'd read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy at age 9 and could still recite passages from memory. He learned she was afraid of being too much or not enough, that she'd built walls so high she sometimes forgot how to let people in, that beneath her professional competence was someone desperately lonely who'd convinced herself she didn't need anyone. They learned how to be together. But Emma still didn't know Laura existed. It was Ryan's choice, and Laura respected it, even though he could see it hurt her sometimes. 3 months of dating someone whose daughter he talked about constantly but never introduced. 3 months of being important but invisible, existing in the space between Ryan's two worlds without bridging them. "I need to be sure," Ryan had explained one Wednesday morning over coffee, his hands wrapped around his mug like it could anchor him. "Emma's already had one person leave. I can't introduce her to someone who might not stay." "I understand," Laura had said, and mostly she did. But he'd seen the flash of pain in her eyes, quickly hidden. The unspoken question, how long until you're sure? Now it was late April, Portland blooming into spring with the kind of determined optimism that made even the grayest days feel temporary. Ryan sat in his car outside Emma's school, waiting for pickup, watching other parents chat easily while their children ran circles on the playground. His phone buzzed. "Laura. New product launch went live this morning. No major disasters yet, trying not to jinx it." Ryan smiled, typed back, "Congratulations. I'll keep my fingers crossed that the servers don't catch fire. Always a risk. Dinner Saturday?" "Definitely. My mom's taking Emma to a movie." "Perfect." "My place this time? I'll actually cook instead of just ordering takeout." Ryan hesitated, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. Laura's place. They'd been careful about that, mostly meeting in restaurants, occasionally at Ryan's house, but only when Emma was elsewhere. Laura's home had remained her private space, and the invitation felt significant. "I'd like that," he finally typed. "Good. 7? I'll be there." The school bell rang. Emma burst out of the building in a tornado of enthusiasm, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders, her hair escaping from its ponytail in all directions. She spotted Ryan's car and ran over, climbing into her booster seat with practiced ease. "Daddy, guess what?" "What, sweetheart?" "Ms. Peterson said my book report was the best in the class. And Dylan said I should be a scientist when I grow up because I know so much about dinosaurs. And we're doing a field trip to the Science Museum next month, and I need a permission slip signed." Emma talked without pause for the entire drive home, a constant stream of second-grade drama and excitement that required minimal input from Ryan beyond occasional affirmations and questions. He'd learned to listen for the important details buried in the enthusiasm, the mention of a classmate who'd been mean, the upcoming assignment she was worried about, the invitation to a birthday party that would require coordination. At home, Emma dumped her backpack by the door and immediately started building something elaborate with her Legos while Ryan started dinner. It was their routine, comfortable and familiar. Emma creating in the living room, Ryan cooking in the kitchen, the two of them existing in parallel until dinner brought them together. "Daddy," Emma called from the living room. "Yeah, baby?" "Do you have a girlfriend?" Ryan nearly dropped the knife he was using to chop vegetables. "What makes you ask that?" "You've been smiling a lot, and you smell nice. And Grandma said you've been going out on Saturday nights." Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, her expression serious. "So do you?" Ryan set down the knife, wiped his hands on a towel, and gestured for Emma to come closer. She climbed onto one of the kitchen chairs, swinging her legs, waiting. "I've been spending time with someone," Ryan said carefully. "A friend who I like very much." We've been getting to know each other. Is it a lady friend? Yes. Is she nice? Very nice. Kind and smart and funny. Emma considered this, her face scrunched in concentration. Do I know her? Not yet. I wanted to make sure things were settled before introducing you, but if you want to meet her, we could arrange that. Is she going to be my new mom? The question hit Ryan like a physical blow. Oh, Em, no, nobody's going to be your new mom. Your mom is your mom, even if she's not here. This person, her name is Laura, she would just be someone else in our lives. Someone who cares about both of us. But if you love her, doesn't that make her family? Ryan pulled Emma into his lap, even though she was really getting too big for it. Love is complicated, sweetheart. Yes, if I love Laura and she loves me, she would be part of our family. But that doesn't replace anyone. Family isn't about replacing people. It's about adding people who make our lives better. Emma was quiet for a long moment, her head resting against Ryan's chest. I think I'd like to meet her. Laura, if she's important to you, she should be important to me too. You're sure? Because there's no rush. We can wait until you're ready. I'm ready. I'm 7 now. I'm practically grown up. Ryan laughed despite the tightness in his throat. You're practically ancient. My mistake. That night, after Emma was asleep, Ryan called Laura. She answered on the second ring, her voice warm with surprise. 2 calls in one day? I'm being spoiled. Emma asked if I have a girlfriend today. Oh. The warmth shifted to something more cautious. What did you tell her? The truth. That I've been spending time with someone I care about, and she asked if she could meet you. The silence stretched long enough that Ryan checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Finally, Laura spoke, her voice thick with emotion. Really? She wants to meet me? She does. If you're ready for that. I know it's a big step. Ryan, I've been ready since month 1. You're the one who needed time to be sure. I'm sure now. I've been sure for a while, actually. I was just scared of messing this up, of introducing you too soon and having it blow up and hurting Emma in the process. And now? Now I think keeping you separate from the most important part of my life is hurting all of us. You, me, Emma. We've been building this relationship in a vacuum, and it's time to see if it can exist in the real world. Laura's laugh was watery. You always know exactly what to say. Years of reading parenting books. They're very instructive. Ryan paused. So, Saturday. Instead of dinner at your place, what if you came here? Met Emma. We could order pizza, keep it casual, no pressure. I'm terrified. Me too. But I think that means we're doing something important. Okay, yes, Saturday. I'll be there. Then, softer. Thank you, Ryan, for trusting me with this. With her. You're worth trusting. You've proven that 100 times over. They talked for another hour, making plans, managing expectations, Ryan offering a dozen reassurances that Laura was going to be great and Emma was going to love her. When they finally hung up, Ryan sat in the darkness of his living room and let himself feel the full weight of what he'd just set in motion. This was it. The moment where his carefully separated worlds collided, where Laura stopped being his girlfriend and became part of Emma's life, where the relationship became real in a way it hadn't been before. He was terrified, but he was also ready. Saturday arrived with Portland's typical spring weather, sun breaking through clouds, rain threatening but not quite committing. Ryan spent the morning cleaning the house with Emma's enthusiastic but questionable help, fielding her constant questions about Laura. What does she look like? She has dark hair and brown eyes and a nice smile. What's her favorite dinosaur? I don't know. You'll have to ask her. Does she like Legos? I haven't asked, but probably. Most people like Legos. Does she know about velociraptors? Probably not as much as you do. Emma seemed satisfied with this. Ryan was not satisfied at all. He was a bundle of nervous energy, checking the clock every 5 minutes, rearranging the living room furniture twice, making sure there was nothing embarrassing visible that might make Laura question her life choices. His mother called at 2. How are you holding up? I'm fine, completely fine. Why wouldn't I be fine?
because you're about to introduce your daughter to your girlfriend and you're probably having a small panic attack. I'm not having a panic attack. Liar, take a breath, honey. Laura's wonderful. Emma's wonderful. This is going to be wonderful. Stop catastrophizing. I don't catastrophize. You absolutely do. You get it from your father. His mother's voice softened. This is a good thing, Ryan. You deserve happiness. Emma deserves to see her father happy. And Laura deserves to be part of your whole life, not just the parts Emma doesn't see. What if Emma doesn't like her? Then you deal with it. But I don't think that's going to happen. Emma's got your heart. She knows what's important. And Laura's important to you, which means Emma will give her a real chance. Ryan hung up feeling marginally better.
Emma emerged from her room wearing what she'd declared her fancy meeting outfit. A dinosaur t-shirt, her favorite purple skirt, and mismatched socks because matching was boring. "Do I look okay?" she asked, suddenly uncertain. "You look perfect. Laura's gonna love you." "What if she doesn't?" Ryan knelt down to Emma's level. "Then Laura and I will have to have a serious conversation about her judgment, because you're the coolest kid I know, but I don't think you need to worry. Laura's been wanting to meet you for a long time." "She has?" "Of course, you're a huge part of my life. Getting to know you is getting to know the most important part of me." Emma seemed to absorb this, then nodded decisively. "Okay, I'm ready." Laura arrived at exactly 7, because of course she did. Ryan opened the door to find her standing on his porch, looking as nervous as he felt, holding a small wrapped package and wearing jeans and a soft blue sweater that made her eyes look impossibly warm. "Hi," she said. "Hi, come in." Laura stepped inside and Ryan could see her taking in the scene, Emma peeking around the corner from the living room, trying to look casual and failing completely. The house smelled like the vanilla candles Ryan had lit in a fit of nervous preparation. Everything felt too bright, too exposed. "Emma," Ryan said gently. "Come meet Laura." Emma emerged from her hiding spot, her earlier confidence wavering slightly. Laura knelt down to her level, a gesture Ryan loved her for. "Hi, Emma. I've heard so many amazing things about you. Your dad talks about you constantly." "He does?" Emma glanced at Ryan, who nodded. "What does he say?" "That you're the smartest 7-year-old he knows, that you know more about dinosaurs than most adults, that you're brave and kind and you make him laugh every single day." Laura held out the wrapped package. "I brought you something. I hope you like it." Emma took the package carefully, looked at Ryan for permission. He nodded. She tore into the wrapping with enthusiasm, then gasped. "It's a book about velociraptors." Emma looked up at Laura with wonder. "How did you know?" "Your dad mentioned you were kind of an expert. I thought you might like to add this to your collection." Emma clutched the book to her chest, then, in a gesture that made Ryan's throat tight, stepped forward and hugged Laura quickly before stepping back. "Thank you. This is the best present ever." Laura's eyes were bright. "You're very welcome." The evening unfolded with surprising ease after that. They ordered pizza, Laura diplomatically siding with Emma on the pineapple question, which earned her major points, and ate at the kitchen table while Emma peppered Laura with questions. What was her job? Did she like coding? Had she ever seen a real dinosaur skeleton? What was her favorite color? Did she think velociraptors could beat a T-Rex in a fight? Laura answered every question with genuine interest, never talking down to Emma, treating her like a person whose opinions mattered. Ryan watched them interact and felt something settle in his chest that had been unsettled for months. After dinner, Emma insisted on showing Laura her room. The explosion of Legos, the carefully organized dinosaur collection, the wall of drawings she'd declared her art gallery. Laura examined everything with appropriate seriousness, asking questions about Emma's creative process and admiring her engineering skills. "You're really talented," Laura said, studying a particularly complex Lego structure. "This kind of spatial reasoning is what good programmers need. You could totally do what your dad and I do when you grow up." "Really? Daddy said I could be anything I want." "He's right. But if you wanted to be a programmer, you'd be great at it." Emma beamed and Ryan felt his heart expand to a size that shouldn't be physically possible. Later, when Emma was occupied with her new book, Laura and Ryan stood in the kitchen doing dishes. Their shoulders brushed as they worked, a comfortable domesticity that felt both new and familiar. "Thank you,"
Ryan said quietly, for being so good with her. She's amazing, Ryan. Truly, smart and curious and so full of life. You've done an incredible job with her. She likes you. I can tell. The feeling's mutual. Laura dried a plate, set it in the rack. I was so nervous. I had 17 different versions of what I'd say when I met her, practiced in the mirror like I was interviewing for a job. You were perfect, natural. You didn't try too hard or act fake. You just treated her like a person. She is a person, a very cool person who knows way more about velociraptors than I ever will.
Ryan smiled, started to respond, then stopped as Emma appeared in the doorway. Can Laura read me my bedtime story, if she wants to? You can still do it if you want, Daddy, but I thought maybe Laura could read the new book since she gave it to me. Ryan looked at Laura, saw the emotion flash across her face before she controlled it. What do you think, Laura? Want to read about velociraptors? I would be honored. They all went to Emma's room. Emma in her pajamas, Ryan sitting in the chair in the corner, Laura settled on the edge of Emma's bed with the new book open in her lap. She read with expression, doing different voices for the text and the dinosaur facts, making Emma giggle with her dramatic interpretation of hunting strategies. When the book was finished, Emma settled under her covers with her rabbit, looking sleepy but content. Good night, Emma, Laura said softly. Thank you for letting me meet you, and for sharing your dinosaur expertise. You can come back, Emma said. If you want, next time you can see my fossil collection. I would love that. Ryan kissed Emma's forehead, turned on her nightlight, and followed Laura out of the room. In the hallway, Laura leaned against the wall and let out a shaky breath. That was, she started. Yeah, Ryan agreed. They returned to the living room, settled on the couch at a careful distance. The house was quiet now, just the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of cars on the street outside. She's wonderful, Laura said finally. Everything you said and more. The way she thinks, the questions she asks, her enthusiasm for everything. She's just wonderful. She liked you too. The bedtime story invitation was a big deal. She doesn't let just anyone into her bedtime routine. I'm honored. Laura turned to face Ryan fully. Thank you for sharing her with me. I know that wasn't easy. It was easier than I thought it would be. Watching you two together felt right, natural. Ryan reached for her hand. I was so scared of this moment. Scared you wouldn't connect, scared Emma would reject you, scared it would change everything between us. But it did change things, just not the way I feared. How did it change things? It made this real. Made us real. You're not just someone I date on Saturday nights anymore. You're someone who knows my daughter, who my daughter wants to see again. You're part of my actual life now, not just the parts I can schedule around single parenthood. Laura's eyes were bright. I want to be part of your actual life. All of it. The complicated parts, the exhausting parts. The parts where Emma has a meltdown and you have to cancel plans. I want the whole thing. Even the 6 a.m. soccer practices? Even those. Though I reserve the right to be grumpy about the early wake-up. Ryan laughed, pulled her closer. I love you. I should have said it before now, but I was scared and overthinking everything. But I love you, Laura. The way you showed up tonight, the way you've been patient with my need to take things slow, the way you treated Emma like she mattered because she matters to me. I love all of it. I love you. Laura made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. I love you too. I have for weeks, maybe months. I just didn't want to say it first and scare you off. You couldn't scare me off. You're stuck with me now. Good. Laura kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. Because I'm not going anywhere. They sat together on Ryan's couch, the same couch where he'd spent countless evenings alone, and talked about the future. About what this meant, about how to navigate dating with a 7-year-old in the picture, about the reality that some nights would be just them and some nights would include dinosaur facts and bedtime stories. I don't expect you to be Emma's mother, Ryan said carefully. I don't want you to feel that pressure. Her mom is her mom, even if she's not here. You can just be Laura. That's enough. I know, and I don't want to replace anyone. I just want to be someone Emma can count on. Someone who shows up and stays and loves her because she's part of you. That's all I could ask for. Laura stayed until almost midnight, neither wanting the evening to end.
When she finally left, it was with promises to see each other Tuesday for lunch, Saturday for a proper date, and maybe Sunday if Emma wanted to show off her fossil collection. Ryan watched her drive away, then checked on Emma one more time. She was fast asleep, the Velociraptor book on her nightstand, her rabbit clutched tight. "I think you'd like her, Em," Ryan whispered, even though his daughter couldn't hear him. "I think we're going to be okay." The weeks that followed established a new rhythm. Laura came for dinner once a week, sometimes staying to help with homework or watch Emma's soccer games. She learned to navigate the chaos of Ryan's household, to step back when Emma needed just her dad, to step in when an extra pair of hands made things easier. She wasn't trying to be a parent, she was just trying to be present, and that was exactly what they needed. Emma blossomed under the attention. She taught Laura about dinosaurs, insisted on demonstrating her Lego techniques, recruited her for an elaborate art project that resulted in paint everywhere and matching grins. She started asking when Laura was coming over, saving stories specifically to tell her, including her in the mental map of people who mattered. Ryan watched it all with a mixture of joy and residual fear. Every time things went well, part of him waited for the other shoe to drop. For Laura to realize this was too much, too complicated, not what she'd signed up for. For Emma to pull away, to resent sharing her father's attention. For something to break this fragile thing they'd built. But nothing broke. The relationship just grew stronger, roots going deeper, the foundation proving solid enough to build on. 4 months after that first meeting, on a Saturday in late August, Laura had dinner with Ryan, Emma, and Ryan's mother. They grilled in Ryan's backyard, Emma running circles with neighborhood kids while the adults sat on the patio watching summer fade into evening. "I like her," Ryan's mother said quietly when Laura went inside to get more lemonade. "She's good for you, good for Emma too." "I know," Ryan said. "I just keep waiting for it to fall apart." "Stop waiting for disaster and start living in the moment. You've got something good here. Don't sabotage it by being afraid." When Laura returned, she settled into the chair next to Ryan with the ease of someone who belonged there. Emma ran over, breathless and grass-stained, and climbed into Laura's lap without asking permission first. "Tell Daddy we should get a dog," Emma demanded. "Oh no," Laura said, laughing. "I'm not getting in the middle of that debate. But you could help convince him, 2 against 1. Nice try, kiddo. That's a dad decision." Emma pouted, but didn't push, content to stay in Laura's lap while she caught her breath. Ryan watched them together, his girlfriend and his daughter, and felt the last piece of his fear dissolve. This was his family now. Not the family he'd planned for, not the traditional structure people expected, but something real and chosen and worth protecting. That night, after Emma was asleep and Ryan's mother had gone home, Laura stayed to help clean up. They worked in comfortable silence, the kitchen warm and full of the day's lingering energy. "Can I tell you something?" Laura said as she dried the last plate. "Always. I've been looking at houses. In your neighborhood, there's a place 2 streets over that's going on the market next month." Ryan set down the dish he was washing. "You're thinking about moving?" "I'm thinking about being closer. To you, to Emma. My current place is 25 minutes away, which isn't terrible, but if I'm going to be part of your lives, really part of them, it would be easier to be nearby." Laura set down the towel, turned to face him fully. "I'm not suggesting we move in together. That's too fast, and Emma needs stability, not big sudden changes. But being in the same neighborhood, being someone who's present and available and part of the daily routine instead of just the weekend visitor, that feels right to me." Ryan pulled her close, overwhelmed by the enormity of what she was offering. "You'd really do that? Uproot your life just to be near us?" "It's not uprooting, it's planting. Putting down roots somewhere that matters, instead of just existing in a house I bought, because it was a good investment." Laura rested her head against his chest. "I love you, Ryan. And I love Emma. And I want to build a life that includes both of you, whatever that looks like." "I love you too. So much." Ryan kissed the top of her head. "Look at the house. If it feels right, make an offer. We'll figure out the rest as we go. We're good at figuring things out. We really are." They stood in Ryan's kitchen, wrapped around each other, and Ryan felt the future shift from something uncertain to something possible. Laura would move closer. They would keep building this careful thing they'd started.
Emma would have another person in her corner, another source of love and stability. And Ryan would finally let himself believe that happy endings weren't just for other people. The summer faded into fall. Laura bought the house 2 streets over, a small bungalow with a garden she had no idea how to maintain and a porch that faced the morning sun. Emma helped her paint the spare bedroom purple, declaring it perfect for sleepovers even though they hadn't discussed sleepovers yet. Ryan helped assemble furniture, his competence with Allen wrenches apparently very attractive based on the way Laura kept finding excuses to watch him work. They fell into a rhythm that felt like family. Tuesday night dinners at Laura's house, where Emma did homework at the kitchen table while Ryan and Laura cooked together. Weekend mornings at the park, throwing a frisbee and pretending to be athletic. Lazy Sunday afternoons where they'd all pile on Ryan's couch and watch movies, Emma wedged between them, perfectly content. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when Emma was difficult and Laura didn't know how to help. Nights when work demands pulled them in opposite directions. Times when Ryan's single-parent instincts clashed with Laura's desire to be more involved. They fought sometimes, usually about small things that represented bigger anxieties, and learned how to fight fairly and apologize genuinely and move forward stronger than before. "We're doing okay, right?" Ryan asked one night after a particularly rough week where everything seemed harder than it should be. "We're doing better than okay," Laura said firmly. "We're doing real. Real is messy and complicated and sometimes exhausting, but it's also worth it. How do you always know the right thing to say?" "Therapy. Lots and lots of therapy." Winter arrived, and with it, the 1-year anniversary of that rainy Friday night when Ryan had offered Laura a ride home. They didn't make a big deal of it, just dinner at the restaurant where they'd had their first real date, Emma safely ensconced at Grandma's for the night. "1 year," Laura said, raising her glass. "From a broken-down car to this." "Best car trouble I've ever had," Ryan agreed, clinking his glass against hers. "Do you remember what you said that night in my kitchen?" "I said a lot of things, most of them probably too honest. You said you felt like you were drowning, like you were running so fast just to stay in place that you'd forgotten what it felt like to actually move forward." Laura set down her glass, reached across the table for his hand. "Do you still feel that way?" Ryan considered the question carefully. "No, I feel like I'm actually living instead of just surviving, like there's room in my life for more than just getting through each day. You did that. You and the choice we made to try this despite all the reasons it should have been impossible. We did that. Together." Laura squeezed his hand. "I have something for you. It's probably too sentimental and definitely too early, but I'm giving it to you anyway." She pulled out a small box, pushed it across the table. Ryan opened it to find a key on a simple keychain. "It's to my house," Laura explained. "I know we're not at the moving in together stage, and I'm not suggesting that, but I want you to have a key. I want you to be able to come over whenever you need to treat my place like it's yours too, because in a lot of ways it is." Ryan felt his throat tighten. "Laura, and before you say it's too much, there's a key for Emma too, because she's part of this. You're a package deal, and I wouldn't want it any other way." Ryan stood up, came around the table, and kissed her in the middle of the restaurant with the kind of certainty that comes from knowing exactly what you want. "I love you," he said when they finally broke apart. "And I have something for you, too." He pulled a key from his pocket, handed it to her. "Same logic. My house is your house. You're always welcome, anytime, for any reason. You're family now." Laura's eyes filled. "Family." "Family," Ryan confirmed. "The kind we chose, the kind we built, the kind that matters." They celebrated their anniversary properly, then drove home separately, Laura to her house, Ryan to his, because they were still taking things slow, still being careful about what message they sent to Emma. But they texted all night, silly messages and serious ones, both of them awake and unable to sleep because happiness sometimes felt too big to contain. Spring came again, Portland blooming into color and promise. Emma turned 8 with a party at the Science Museum, surrounded by friends and family, with Laura helping orchestrate the chaos alongside Ryan. When Emma blew out her candles, she looked at Ryan and Laura standing together and smiled like she'd gotten exactly what she wished for. "What did you wish for, what?" Ryan asked later during the quiet cleanup after everyone had left. "I can't tell you or it won't come true." "Fair enough." Emma paused in her collection of wrapping paper, looked at her father seriously. But I can tell you I'm happy. Really happy. We're a good family, aren't we, Daddy? The best family, Ryan agreed, his voice rough with emotion. Even though it's different from other families? Especially because it's different. We built this ourselves, made it exactly what we needed it to be. Emma nodded, satisfied, and went back to her cleanup duties. Ryan watched her, this fierce, amazing person he'd raised alone, and felt gratitude for every hard moment that had led them here. Laura appeared at his elbow, slipped her hand into his. She's going to be okay, better than okay. I know, because of you, because you showed up and stayed and loved her without trying to be something you're not. I just loved her the way she deserved, the way you taught me to. They stood together in Ryan's living room, surrounded by the evidence of Emma's 8th birthday, streamers and balloons and crumpled wrapping paper. And Ryan realized this was what happiness looked like. Not perfection, not the absence of complications, just people who loved each other, showing up day after day, building something real. That night, after Emma was asleep and Laura had gone home to her own house 2 streets away, Ryan's phone buzzed with a text. Laura, thank you for letting me be part of this. Part of Emma's birthday, part of your family. I don't take it for granted. Ryan smiled, typed back. Thank you for choosing us. Every day you choose us. That means everything. Always. I choose you always. Ryan fell asleep with his phone on his nightstand and a smile on his face, thinking about the future they were building. It wouldn't always be easy. There would be hard moments ahead, complicated conversations about what role Laura played in Emma's life, negotiations about boundaries and expectations, the inevitable challenges that came with blending lives and hearts and hopes. But they would face those moments together, with honesty and patience, and the kind of love that showed up in small daily choices rather than grand gestures. Laura would keep choosing them. Ryan would keep trusting her. Emma would keep growing up knowing she was loved by people who stayed. And on Friday nights, when the Portland rain came down and the world felt uncertain, Ryan would remember that sometimes the best things started with a simple choice to help someone in need. That kindness could become connection. Connection could become love, and love, real, complicated, chosen love, could become family. He'd offered Laura a ride home one rainy night. She'd offered him a future. And together, they'd built something worth protecting. Something real, something that felt finally and absolutely like home.